Wise Guys is back. The number one BYU Sports live stream show in the entire world. Dave McCann and Blaine Fowler. How far we've come in about, 17 months from non-existing to being the number one live stream BYU Sports talk show in the entire world.
Well, we started with nothing. And
now we have the world.
And now we have something. And it's thanks to all of our live streamers. And we're going to get the live stream up and running here. And we love when you chime in and tell us where you're at. And here we go. BYU Sports Attic, first one in there. Let's go, baby. Cougar Nation, hello.
We should have a
Tuesday
prize.
night smells like football season in Farmington. I love it. So BYU Sports Attic is the first one to chime in, and Newt, of course. Hey guys, it's been a few shows for me. So, Newt, we're glad to have you back. We don't know what was so important on Tuesday night the last couple of weeks, but we're glad you're back with us. And
the podcast, of course, is available starting tomorrow. And
we're really grateful for those of you that come on live that you share your Tuesday night with us, and that's awesome. But you know what? We're grateful to everybody that downloads the podcast and goes back and watches the show on YouTube. And remember to follow us on YouTube. And we'll put the link in the chat here for the YouTube follow. Hit the subscribe button. It's free. Click on the bell. And when you click on the bell, you get notifications whenever we post something new or we go live. The more subscribers we get, the longer we get to do the show. We're up to 17 months now. Let's just keep this thing rolling.
Amber says, get Pitta on now. Love that dude. Amber, he's coming on here in just a few minutes.
Don't worry. Patience sometimes, Amber. Sometimes we have to have a little patience.
Now go to ysguys.com and subscribe. Get our weekly email. That's all the highlights of the show, which are great. And it's all free.
And Ruthie says she loves being here with us all. And you know what? We love having you with us here, Ruthie.
Dr. Ketch from Vegas?
Yeah, he's always Dr. Ketch, have you ever missed a show? I don't think he's ever missed a show.
We love Vegas.
Hey, don't forget, we're also live on Facebook, Twitch, and ysguys.com. Everything you need is at ysguys.com. All the links to everything that you need.
Past interviews with all the big names. We had such a great interview with Tom Holmoe last week.
Almost 2 hours.
Almost 2 hours, and no one gets that. But we got that, and if you missed it, it's sitting right there for you at ysguys.com. Lots of folks have gone to it and watched it after our show. We had a big audience last week. Earl says, hey, Dave, Blaine.
Glad to have you, Earl. Earl's always consistent with us, too. He's always on.
Yeah. Last week, so Tom last week, and then some of the interviews waiting for you at ysguys.com. Danny Ainge, Kyle Van Noy, who's waiting to join a football team.
He's
Mark
smart.
Wilson.
Don't go to camp. Just start.
Gary Scheide, John Beck, Max Hall, Jay Hill, Justin Anna, Gennaro Guilford, Sione Pua, Kelly Popinga, Fessy Sataki, Harvey Youngus, Steve Clark. They've all been on with us. Jamal Willis was outstanding. And there's so many more than that. That's just to name a few waiting for you at ysguys.com.
So, and hey, Coog Dude said he just saw Keaton Slovis coming out of the Legacy Grill. So nice.
We know where he's going.
And then Linda Murray, she says she's been. I like how people are being transparent with us and telling us that they've missed a few shows. But I hope Linda and anybody that missed last week has had a chance to go back and at least listen to the podcast with Tom Holmoe, because it was really, really good stuff.
Eric saying hi from White Plains, New York.
Hey, that's not too far from where I grew up.
That's
love it.
Appreciate you having you with us. There's a lot to talk about, and we've got some fantastic guests. BYU football kicks off a week from Saturday. The team is practicing tonight under the lights at Lavelle Edwards Stadium. That's how close we are to the actual thing starting off, is when they're under the lights, to get used to nighttime football, because the kick on opening night is 8:15 p.m. Mountain Time, 10:15 Eastern.
Yeah, and I hope it's as cool on that night as it is right now.
It's been nice today.
It's
a lot of rain.
It's gorgeous out there today. And you know what? We get so little rain in the summer. It's kind of refreshing. I'm kind of liking the rain.
I like the rain. Hall of Fame tight end Dennis Pitta is going to join us in a few minutes, as he'll help us get ready for the season.
So, and hey, how about the fact that Kenneth Rooks had a top 10 finish in the World Championships.
Fantastic.
Today. Former BYU Olympian Henry Marsh, our good friend, joins us tonight to talk about that. Didn't Henry predict that he could finish in the top 10?
He did. And he's got all kinds of stories. But you're right. He said, I think he can finish in the top 10. We'll give you his times here coming up in just a bit, because there's a long ways to go from number 10 to number 1.
Yeah.
But there's an even longer way to go from the world to number 10.
There's definitely some separation there, but you had a chance to talk to Henry, and he's going to come on and talk, but he told you that a lot of his progress and him going from very, very good to world class and at the top of the world came after the age that Kenneth Rooks is right now.
Yeah.
And so we're really excited to have, when it comes the time to talk with former Olympian Henry Marsh, and he's going to tell us a little bit, maybe some of the potential of Kenneth after his top 10 finish today.
Houston is with us here on the show tonight. Great to have the great state
Mark
of Texas
Actual, that's
represented.
What's that one? Is it Pooh Hound?
It sounds like it.
As a BYU fan in Houston?
Yeah.
Okay, we're glad you're here.
we're glad that Houston's in the Big 12.
And BYU fans in Houston are going to represent now having Houston in the Big 12. It's going to be fun. I think we owe Houston a few stadium and arena takeovers.
Yes, we do, and they're coming. News and notes from today, which today was the official end of fall camp. At least they kind of put a button on it, had some media veils, and Aaron Roderick made a couple of announcements. Jake Retzlaff is the number 2 quarterback heading into the season. We'll see what that means. They want to protect his red shirt. He can play 4 games, but he's number 2 as we sit marching in. But if something happens to Keaton Slovis early, I have a feeling that Finnegan will be a factor as well, because they love Retzlaff to have a redshirt year and then 2 years.
Yeah, if they can. So although, I don't know, I do think for sure, let's say that Keaton stays healthy and Jake's played in a couple of games and there's 6 games left. I think they go, oh, no, he can only play in 2. Let's redshirt him for sure. We don't want to. Yeah. But if something happened early, and I'm knocking on wood like crazy right now. Is this wood table's wood, right?
Yeah, it is.
So let's just knock on some wood, right? Because Keaton's going to stay healthy and he's going to have a phenomenal season. I can't think of somebody that deserves more to have a great season than Keaton with the work he's put in.
Oh yeah. And you watched him. We all got to see a little of him Saturday in the scrimmage, and then we did a little clip for BYU TV.
Yeah.
You really liked what you saw.
Yeah, no, it was good, and I got special permission to go to the whole scrimmage because it was the Cougar Club day and just so folks know. Even though I don't really get much benefit from it because I go to all the games and call the games and do the pre and post, I am a Cougar Club member. You're a Cougar Club member.
Everyone should be a Cougar Club member.
So we're Cougar
According
Club
to my
members.
father.
And we got invited to go to the lunch and to go to the thing. So Brendan and I went, took our seats, took our J-Dogs, and watched Keaton Slovis. And man, he was impressive. Keaton was a little under the weather, so just a little sickness. So he just played a couple of series, but in the 2 series he played or 3 series he played, I thought he was really impressive. I'm all in on him now.
Yeah, Jonathan's with us from Henderson, Nevada. Southern Nevada has some of the best BYU fans in the world. And I was down there with them for about 20 years, and they're just awesome. And they love this show, which is great. I thought one other interesting note from Roderick today is Mata'ava Taase, the transfer tight end from Southern Utah, is the number 2 tight end going into Sam Houston.
Yeah, and he's the other thing about Taase is he's really good at playing that H/F spot. The kind of the wing that Mason Wake played, and Mason medically retired. And this dude can hit some people and plow the road and create some seams for Aiden Robbins. So, we're excited for Taase. Another name that people aren't really thinking about much is Paulo, who is also going to get a lot of playing time. So there's 2 new guys that can play that H and F, and then also back up Isaac Rex and Ethan Erickson and Fakahua has now moved to tight end. That tight end room got from really thin last year to really, really deep this year.
Thick, which is good. Would you say
from
thick?
From thin to thick. It's thick, and I'm liking that. And then Jacob, our Jackson Bowers, Jacob's the old basketball player. Jackson Bowers, the tight end, big time recruit. He's really started to assert himself in the last couple of weeks. I asked the coaches, I'm like, who does he remind you of? We got Dennis Pitta coming on today. Is he Dennis Pitta? Is he Andrew George? Is he Clay Brown? Is he Gordon Hudson? And they're like, no, he's Daniel Coates. I was like, oh,
okay.
I'll take a Daniel Coates. Daniel Coates played like 3 or 4 years in the NFL. Yeah, we'll take Daniel Coates.
We'll also take David with us from the Tri-Cities in the state of Washington on the Wise Guys tonight. Everybody that's on the stream, let us know where you're viewing from, and we'll try to get a mention because we sure appreciate you. Micah Harper made it official. He's out for the year with a torn ACL. We'll see him next season. College football national writer Brett McMurphy projecting this week that BYU will play South Carolina in the Gasparilla Bowl on December 22nd.
So,
okay. That would be 11 P5s.
Do you want to know what? If the players and the coaches had a say, if they're not in a New Year's Six game, which that's their goal, obviously, right?
Yeah.
They would love to play before Christmas. If you're not going to play in a New Year's game, then you want to be done before Christmas and go home with your family. So that's a great bowl against a good
Someday
program.
we'll be in those bigger bowls that are like December 30th, which is the Alamo Bowl or something like that, where it's, the Pop-Tarts Bowl. There's $8 million waiting for you.
You know what? Don't sell this team short yet. Let's see how healthy they stay, because maybe they move up in that little bowl.
That'd be nice.
Hierarchy, and maybe we do play in a Pop-Tarts Bowl. I'm just mad that the Cheez-It Bowl's not around anymore, because I was hoping they played that and I would get the Cheez-It room with all the Cheez-It stuff. So
Newt's here, another one from the state of Washington on the Wise Guys tonight. They must know that Henry Marsh is coming up a bit later on.
That's right.
The November 18th game between BYU and Oklahoma at LaVell Edwards Stadium is sold out.
Gee, you think?
Yeah, that's number one on the list. Now they got to go work on Sam Houston. See if he can start the season.
Can we please just sell out the home opener against Sam Houston?
Yeah.
Just frighten these youngins to death. The Sam Houston new in FCS.
How about our friend Kyle Van Noy?
FBS.
Yeah, now they're Division I.
Yeah. Kyle Van Noy inducted into the McQueen High School Hall of Fame over the weekend. He was a star at the Reno, Nevada High School before coming to BYU. Still waiting to sign with a new team as a free agent.
He's holding out.
You can see our Wise Guys interview with Kyle at wiseguys.com. Did a great job. I loved having Kyle on with us.
But I had him on for like an hour and 50 minutes.
Yeah, and he was great. And you want to know what? Kyle wants to do stuff like this when he gets done, and we'd love to welcome him in and have him be part of some of the stuff that we do. And he's smart. He's a veteran. I talked to Harvey Longy last week. He's doing the same thing. They have some teams interested in them, but they're saying, I really just as soon not play camp.
Yeah.
And
camp's about over.
I will not be surprised when the camp is over if both of those guys end up hooking up, because they're established guys in the league.
Pick Six Previews put out a tweet this week. The most wins in college football over the last 50 years. Shout out to Naperville, Illinois. Good to have Russ with us on the Wise Guys. Thanks, Russ. Number one, last 50 years, most wins in college football. Ohio State at 476. Now, some of these are going to be no-brainers. Oklahoma,
that's what you think.
470. Alabama's third at 463.
Yep.
Georgia's number 4 at 448. Nebraska's 5 at 445, and then it gets a little interesting.
Yeah, number 6 is Michigan at 442. Now, remember, Michigan's the all-time most winning. They have more wins than any team in the history of college football. They're 6 in the last 50 years. 7 is Penn State at 440. And how about BYU at number 8 with 431?
How about that?
Clemson's 9 at 427. Florida State 422 at number 10. That rounds out the top 10.
Those are the blue bloods right there. They're all blue bloods.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's going to take a while for Utah to catch up, and they may never now. The BYU's in a P5.
They're not going to catch up.
We've talked about this. BYU they have a national championship. They're top 10 all time. They're top 10 in the last 50 years in wins. They have multiple league championships. They have so many bowls that they've played in, and they also have all the major awards. You got Heisman Trophy winners, David O'Brien Award winners, Doak Walker Award winners, Outland Trophy winners, a couple of those, in fact.
Yeah.
So their history is a blue blood history, that's for sure. It's a national level program.
Couple of notes before we get to Dennis Pitta. Kenneth Rooks today finished 10th in the 3,000-meter steeplechase at the World Track and Field Championships. That was in Budapest earlier this afternoon, and 10th is right where Henry Marsh predicted he would finish.
You came in and said you talked to Henry, and Henry said 10th.
Yeah, I wrote about it in the Deseret News.
I knew Henry knew what he was talking about. But that just solidified it right there.
So his time was 8:20.02, which was the highest U.S. finish. Soufiane El Bakali of Morocco won
Morocco.
In 8 minutes, or 8:03.53. So there was about 16 seconds in between first and 10th.
Right.
And so that's where he's got to go to become the best in the world. By the way, which Henry Marsh was the best in the world. For a long time, certainly the number one steeplechase runner in the United States. So we're going to talk to him in just a little bit. When Rook's going to return to BYU in time to run in the Big 12 this fall. You know what? I like our chances in the Big 12 in track and field and cross country.
Track and field and cross country. Like, why do we even talk about the Big 12? Let's just go win some more national championships in cross country.
So congratulations to Kenneth Rooks. I'm not even sure we understand how awesome that is. But Henry Marsh is going to lay it out for us.
Yeah. Hey, let's talk a little bit about women's soccer. Ranked number 11, up 2 spots from last week. So they defeated a number 21 St. Louis 3-2 last Thursday. And then they went and played Cal State Fullerton. They beat them 4-1 on Saturday. Next up, Long Beach State, Thursday at 6 p.m. on ESPN+. That's a program that can immediately go and not only compete for a Big 12 championship, but they're always in the talk about, can they get to a Final Four? Can they get to a championship game again? It's an elite level program, and they're off to a good start.
Dallas, Texas is in the house tonight. I'm just looking at the live stream, listening to you talk, and the whole world is this is such an awesome show.
So
where's
our folks?
Everyone's in.
I'm waiting for our folks from Philippines to chime in. I want Corey to chime in from Japan at some point tonight or tomorrow morning. It is there. It's morning. It's 10 a.m. in the morning in Japan. What about our folks from Panama?
Yeah,
we've had folks from Panama. If you're out there, South America, let us know you're out there.
Let's hear from you for sure. Women's volleyball, they're ranked 17th in the country. The season opener against number 5 Pitt. That's Friday afternoon at 2:00 Mountain Time on ESPN+. They're playing that in Montana. So you got number 17 against number 5. But in Montana, I like BYU's chances.
Yeah.
There in Montana. It's a long road trip for the Panthers.
And BYU, under Heather Olmstead's never been ranked lower than 18. How about that?
Yeah, that's just solid.
That's quite a record.
Home opener against LMU is coming up August 30th at 7:00 Mountain Time on ESPN+.
Hey, Pooh Hound from down in Houston wants to know if I played this season, how many touchdowns I would throw.
Well, how many are we expecting Slovis to throw?
I think he's going to throw around 40.
40. So if you were playing
46,
46,
yeah,
47,
46.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Didn't Jim throw like 48 one year? I think McMahon threw like 48. Which is like ridiculous. No, here's the thing. They do have great receivers and they got great running backs. I think like I would throw us down there and throw for 400, and I'll just let Aiden Robbins run a lot of touchdowns. It's going to be like Brandon Dome and Luke Staley.
That would be a smart thing.
I want everybody involved. I don't want to just go out and throw 48 touchdowns and break Jim's record. I don't want to do that.
Spencer's back with us from Lubbock, Texas. What's up, Spencer? And Spencer, by the way, was the one who went and got 5 new viewers for Wise Guys. Remember, we challenged him?
That was Spencer. That's right.
That was last week, and he got it done, and so we're going to give him a special shout-out.
Kudos to you.
And our guys are working on Dennis Pitta. We'll get the green light from DJ here in just a moment. Pitta's awesome, and we're going to ask him for his 5 favorite touchdown passes that he's caught. 5 favorite touchdown catches in his career, not just BYU, because he went in the NFL, won a Super Bowl, caught a touchdown in the Super Bowl. And as we finagle through that, let's go over some of the key dates that we got going on campus, and we also have some basketball news we can get to.
Right.
Thursday, Long Beach State soccer, Southfield, 6:00 Mountain Time on ESPN+. And we mentioned a moment ago, Friday's volleyball. There's more soccer Saturday at Boise State, and then volleyball again Saturday at Montana. And then on August 29th, we've got more after further review as we break down some of the offensive superstars and preview Sam Houston.
I hope you got to watch the show today. Because
it's waiting for you.
Yeah, because we talked about defensive stars today, and it was really fun to get into that. So offense next week. Next week on Wise Guys, got a couple of my buddies and old teammates. Steve Young's coming in with us. He's not coming in to here because he's going to be at home in Palo Alto and come on via Zoom. But Elder Sikahema, who was going to be in studio, Vi Sikahema.
It's his birthday, so now he's going to join us via Zoom.
So now he's going to join us via Zoom. But they'll both be in the house with us or in the Zoom with us. That's going to be a really fun show next week. And August 31st, women's soccer. Number 1 UCLA at number 11 BYU. 8
How about
PM.
that for a night, Southfield?
Do you know what? I like BYU's chances against the number 1 at home.
Yeah.
It's not like when number 1 Miami came in to play BYU. We didn't give them any shot and they won. This is number 1 coming in against a team that's not intimidated by number 1. And at home, they're not intimidated by anybody. That's for sure. So I like BYU's chances against number 1 UCLA at home.
That's going to be a tough ticket to get.
Yeah, that place should be just jam-packed, right?
Yeah.
And then September 2nd, of course, football Sam Houston at BYU, 8:15 on FS1. And you and I will be doing a 2-hour pregame show that night, our game day, which will start at 6:15 Mountain Time.
Everybody's excited about football. understandably so. We've seen a lot of Cougars in the NFL. August 29th is the day when cuts are made. You remember they used to do cuts like this day, and then final cuts. Now just all the cuts are on August 29th, and we've got 21, 22 former Cougs trying to land jobs or keep jobs in the NFL. And so keep that day in mind, August 29th. And Chris Brooks, a couple of notables real quick. Last week with the Dolphins, 11 for 47 yards. He caught a touchdown pass, little screen, went 18 yards to the end zone. He's making some headway, I think, with the Dolphins.
Yeah, and I'll tell you who's looked really good is Zach Wilson.
Yeah.
With the Jets. This time to be able to be working with Aaron Rodgers has been really good for him, and I think it's going to prolong his career and help him be a great quarterback. He was 9 of 13 for 70 yards, 2 rushes for 41 yards. He had that 35-yard crazy run.
I was all over Twitter. All over Twitter.
Yeah. So hey, things are looking up for Zach Wilson. Not having to have the pressure to be the man. Let Aaron Rodgers be the man for a year or two here.
Jaron Hall was 4 of 7 for 49 yards, led a touchdown drive for the Vikings. He's the third-string quarterback and making the most of some of these preseason games where a lot of the stars haven't been playing. They will this week. It's the final week coming up. And Matt Bushman caught a couple of passes for the Chiefs.
Yeah, two receptions for 30 yards for Matt. We wish Matt the best there and has a chance. It's great to see him healthy and contributing there. So
here's where everybody is this week.
Let's start with this. Thursday, the Steelers are at the Falcons. So Tyler Algier will be the guy we'll be watching that one, 5:30 Mountain Time on the NFL Network. And then, also Thursday, the Colts. Blake Freeland with the Colts at the Eagles, 6 p.m. Mountain Time. That's on Prime Video. And then Friday, we got the Lions at the Panthers. Brady Christensen, of course, with the Panthers at 6 p.m. Mountain Time on CBS. Also on Friday, the Chargers. Michael Davis at the 49ers. Fred Warner, 8 p.m. Mountain Time on the NFL Network. Two bona fide stars and starters for those two teams, and Michael Davis and Fred Warner. I don't know how much they'll play.
Saturday for the Bills is Zane Anderson, and they take on the Bears. And Dennis just told us he's logging on right now, so he's going to join us in a sec. Tyson Williams of the Cardinals against Jaron Hall and Kyrus Tonga at the Vikings.
And then the Browns that same night, Sione Takitaki, and the Chiefs, Matt Bushman, 11 a.m. Mountain Time on the NFL Network.
Zach Wilson back in action against the Giants, Jets-Giants. That's at 4 o'clock Mountain Time on Saturday on NFL Network.
And then Bengals at Commanders. Dax, we were looking for Dax last night.
I heard his name called a few times, but I didn't see much.
Yeah, he didn't. I don't feel like he played a lot of plays. That's also then the Dolphins with Chris Brooks at the Jags, and the Rams with Puka Nacua, who's getting a lot of complimentary buzz coming out of the Rams. They're at the Broncos at 7 p.m. Mountain Time on the NFL Network.
Yeah, and I didn't see Puka in the game the other day, and so he might have already just kind of made the team and look.
Yeah, it's just like when he's not playing and they're talking good about him at this point in preseason, that's a good thing. That means they're saying, yeah, he's got the spot. He's fine. We don't need to play him and have him get hurt, which I love. And then Sunday kind of rounds up this week of football with the Texans at the Saints. And, of course, the Saints should be one of the Cougs' favorite teams with 2 Cougs, Jamal Williams and Taysom Hill, 6 p.m. Mountain Time on Fox.
And, so now the networks are starting.
And Kamara's hurt, right? Isn't Kamara
ABC. Hurt? He's out for 3 games for a suspension.
That's right. So Jamal is going to be getting some run here even in the regular season with Kamara out.
It's going to be interesting. So the starters should play about a quarter, maybe a half this week. And then you should see Hall again and some of the others. Tyler Algier, they're being careful with him. They got also a new running back. They drafted the Texas kid.
Surprised me that they drafted a first-round draft pick at running back after Tyler Algier just rushed for 1,000 yards last year. Like, what the heck?
It didn't make any sense, but it's the Falcons.
Yeah.
And then maybe that makes the most sense of all.
Hey, by the way, Amber's really anxious to get Dennis Pitta on the show. And Amber, we're trying. We're trying.
DJ is working as we speak.
His fingers are working so hard on the keyboard that smoke is coming off of his keyboard right now.
And Henry Marsh coming up a bit later, and we're going to take your questions, of course, on our live stream. So if you have anything, send them to us. And we've got basketball news, too. Both the men's and women's teams are actually over in Europe doing exhibitions. And, I don't know what to read into a lot of these things. when they go over there and they just whoop on teams. I don't know if they just got them together from out back or if they're not playing the national squad, but it's a great bonding opportunity. They went down to Dubrovnik
and there were some guys there that were in Game of Thrones extras, and they said, "Hey, you guys are actors," and they said, "Yeah," and they said, "You want to play some basketball players and pretend like you're basketball players?" Sure,
why not?
So they go play them, then BYU wins by 80.
So today, BYU, the men's team, defeated Pala Canestro, 84-73. Jackson Robinson had 26. In game one on their tour, they beat Orange 1 Basket Bassano in Milan, 100-64, and Trevenel had 20 points. So they got 2 games in. Before they left, Mark Pope added Colin Terry to his coaching staff. He comes from the G League of the NBA. And Nate Austin, former Cougar, is back now the director of basketball operations. Remember, it was Austin who blocked a shot with 3 seconds left to give BYU a 69-68 win at number 25 Gonzaga back in 2016.
Pretty
Game
awesome.
of his life.
Hey, by the way, my night is complete now because Glenn just logged in from the Philippines. So there you go.
All right.
He says real games coming soon. And Amber says she saw a bunch of fun Instagram posts from Lauren Gustin over in Europe today and said they must be having fun, which absolutely. This is not just about going over and playing. This is about team building opportunity. You know, we talked to both the men's staff and the women's staff. We had Nick Robinson on here a couple of weeks ago. These trips are as much about the 10 practices you get additional that you don't normally get to work with your guys and before you go with your team.
Yeah.
It's about spending time together as a team and building camaraderie and chemistry and all of that. And then, you play some games. But that may be the third most important thing on a trip like this is the actual playing of the games. So it's pretty fun stuff.
The women defeated the Spanish All-Stars 62-43, and then they beat Brittle Blick, Iceland, 104-53. We don't hear a lot about Iceland basketball. And then Latvian All-Stars, 99-45.
Is that all saying true? Like, it's green in Iceland and it's ice in Greenland? Is that true?
I don't think it is, but it sounds like it should be.
I thought in Greenland it was just icy, but in Iceland it actually has a lot of greenery. Is that wrong?
Yeah. My neighbor went to Iceland and it was green. She took a lot of pictures.
Henry gave me a thumbs up. Henry's in the green room now. Henry Marsh is in the green room. And DJ says that's a true statement.
He also says Dennis is with us. Let's get right to Dennis, our first guest.
Of course, DJ never questions me. So.
No, he's learned that a long time ago. Our first guest tonight is Super Bowl champion and member of the BYU Athletic Hall of Fame, set the standard at tight end for a program that's had a number of outstanding tight ends. Our pleasure to welcome the former walk-on and eventual consensus All-American and Hall of Famer and Super Bowl champion, Dennis Pitta. Back to the Wise Guys. And there he is, live from his vehicle in California. Dennis, it's so great to have you with us. How you doing?
I'm good. You guys hear me all right?
Yeah, we can hear you great. Like, what vehicle is that? People want to know what you're driving these days so they can go out and get one.
I actually have a Ford F-150 Lightning. It's the new electric one.
Oh.
I live in California now, so gas prices are a little bit higher than where you guys are at.
Yeah, just a little bit.
We got to offset our costs somehow and stay electric. But I apologize for being late, guys. I literally just walked off the practice field here in San Clemente. I was with our good friend John Beck and Byron Rex and the crew. We're all coaches over here for San Clemente High School. So we have a game coming up on Thursday, actually, this week. And I apologize. I was all wrapped up into practice and didn't realize what time it was.
That's all right. We'll work around that.
People have been, and that's the most important thing. People have been so excited, like on the chat, like you can't see it because you're down there, but people are like, "Where's Dennis? Get Dennis!" And some of the women that follow their show are like, "Dennis is a beautiful man. Where's the handsome Dennis?" Like I was like, "Wow."
Well, the handsome
Dennis has
Dennis
a following.
is right here. How excited are you for the football season?
I am very excited. Are we talking BYU football? Or are we talking San Clemente High School football? Because I'm excited for both.
Yeah, let's start with San Clemente and then since it's going on now, and then the Cougs here in a week and a half.
Yeah, we had our first game last Friday night for San Clemente, first game of the season, and we got a big win, 20-10, against a very good, highly ranked Chaparral team out of Temecula, California. So great start for the Tritons down here in San Clemente, and we're 1-0.
Is this staff? So you mentioned there's John Beck, there's Byron Rex.
That's like an NFL staff.
Is that to rival the Ty Detmer, Max Hall staff over in Arizona?
Yeah, I was part of the Ty Detmer, Max Hall staff. I was the wide receiver / special teams coach there. And, that staff only could take me so far. And so I realized, I got to jump ship. I got to find something that'll challenge me a little bit more. And so I came over to California and joined John Beck and Byron. And we have Matt Redden, if you guys remember him.
I know Matt really well. Don't tell me Jonathan Ord's out there with you guys, too.
Jonathan, I replaced Jonathan Ord out here.
Oh,
Jonathan Ord got called as a mission president in, I believe, Texas.
No kidding.
And so he just left, I think, in June, and I stepped in. So we have a pretty strong BYU contingency down here in San Clemente.
Yeah, that's
much like we had in Arizona.
Oh yeah.
That's Jonathan and Matt. They kind of run they run San Clemente, obviously. And so my question is that now that Jonathan's on a mission, I'm hoping like you and Matt are going to be able to take care of me at San Clemente Country Club when I come down there now. It's very hilly, but a good course right by their house there.
I am not a member there, so that's going to have to be Matt. I live up just like 10 minutes north of there. I live in Ladera Ranch.
Oh, okay.
And so I am not technically a San Clemente guy, but I coach
But you're
down
coaching
here.
with those. Because what positions are you? You were coaching receivers and special teams with Ty. What are you coaching with the staff here in San Clemente?
Yeah, so I'm still doing wide receivers. Byron's technically the tight end coach, but I interject probably too often when he's trying to coach, and kind of overtake his coaching points and bring my own to the game. So, Byron, I'm always stepping on Byron's toes, which I think he's bothered by. But I keep telling our tight ends, listen, the game has passed Byron by. He's old. All right, this is new school football. You guys need to listen to me and ignore what he says.
Dennis, when Byron's in one of his things and he's talking a lot, do you just pull out your Super Bowl ring and put it on and walk around the guys?
I haven't pulled that move yet.
But it's there
it
for
hasn't
you.
come to that. He still is letting me talk a little bit, but if it comes to that, I will have no shame.
Who's older, Byron or? Yeah, I think Byron's older. Byron or Tom Brady. I'm like, who's older, Byron or Tom Brady?
I think Byron's a little bit older.
I think so
he is
too.
Byron, I think Byron's in his 50s. Byron's mid 50s, I think. I don't know.
Because
Listen, he looks great for 50.
Yeah, he is in shape.
Yeah, let's shift to the Cougs. A week from Saturday is the opener. Do you get anxious this time of year? Because this was the time of year you were either playing at BYU or you're playing for the Ravens. Now you're coaching, but as an athlete, does the bug come back in late August?
It definitely does. As soon as teams start reporting back for training camp in the NFL, I start to kind of get butterflies in my stomach because I just remember for so long that time of year and being nervous and getting back and into training camp and getting ready for the season. So I know what those guys are going through. Training camp is not easy in the NFL, I can tell you that. And having to go through those preseason games, and there's just so much pressure at that level. And I'm nervous for the guys that are playing now, even if I don't know them. I just have like butterflies in my stomach for those guys because the grind that they're going through day in and day out, both physically and mentally. And so, I'm a little farther removed from the fall camp days at BYU, and those felt a little bit more fun to me than the NFL ones did. BYU is, for whatever reason, it was a little bit more, I felt a little bit more comfortable and relaxed and not quite as much pressure there. You didn't feel like you were always losing your job at BYU like you do in the NFL, but it's an exciting time of year, and I love when football rolls back around, because I get to coach, but also, watching it every Saturday and Sunday is a blast.
Take us inside. You said it's been a little bit longer, but now BYU's less than 2 weeks away. They officially closed fall camp today, so now it's prep for Sam Houston. What does that change mean for the mindset of the players, and what's kind of going through their heads as they're now less than 2 weeks away from game one?
Yeah, I mean, you make that mental shift from training camp grind, going against your own team, to now you're preparing for an opponent. And I always loved that shift from whether it was in the NFL or at BYU, from going against your own guys. I mean, physically, the grind of just fall camp is really difficult. And to be able to now shift your attention to an actual opponent, to be able to start game planning towards an opponent, You get to work against the scout team a little bit more, so you get more of a physical break from the grind to training camp. And it's always an exciting time because all right, we're just a week or two away here from the start of this season and getting underway. So I love this time of year, and we're about ready to get rolling here.
Handful of BYU receivers, including tight end Isaac Rex, spent some time with you in California doing off-season training. You talked with Rex after the scrimmage Saturday. He's back. He's healthy. He's ready to go. What are your expectations for him in this offense after working with him during the summer?
Yeah, I mean, we had a really great opportunity, both Austin Collie and myself, to train a lot of the BYU wide receivers and tight ends, which I think was awesome. We're down here in Southern California, and Keaton Slovis was down here training with John Beck. So we kind of used that opportunity to get a bunch of the tight ends and receivers down here, get some extra work while the quarterbacks were doing their work. We were getting all kinds of different drills with the tight ends and receivers, and then we would come together and throw routes so those guys could get on the same page, and we'd film them and we'd watch the film, we'd critique them. So we were able to spend about 3 weeks or so with a lot of those guys. And for me, it was a blast. I mean, I didn't know a lot of those guys, a lot of the receivers. Obviously, I have known Isaac for a little bit now. But another tight end that was down with us was Anthony Olson, who we really enjoyed getting to know. And then a bunch of the wide receivers. Parker Kingston was one of them. A lot of those guys were down here working with us. And it was awesome just to get to know those guys, to see their game, to be able to help them in any way that we could. Refine their route running at the top of routes, getting off the jam, working releases, all that kind of stuff. Hopefully they enjoyed it, but it was great to be able to give back to those guys and work with them. And listen, it gives me more of a vested interest now, and I'm going to really be paying attention and watching those guys and really excited for them and rooting for the success this season.
They gave rave reviews. Like, they were really excited about having the opportunity. When we've talked to some of those kids that were down there, they treasure that opportunity. It was really fun for them. You mentioned you worked a little bit with Keaton because he was down there with John, working with John. What's your impression of Keaton? I mean, I think he's made huge progress since spring till now in his mastery of this offense and all that. But you saw his raw physical skills down there. What were your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, the first thing that jumps out to you is his leadership ability. He's a confident kid, and he's a natural leader. I mean, he was rallying the receivers. Right away, everybody kind of looks to him as their leader. And for a guy that just transferred in and really had only been there a couple months, that was impressive to see. And that's what you need and want out of the quarterback position, a guy that's going to be confident in the huddle, a guy that everybody's going to look to for confidence, and somebody who's going to be that kind of natural leader for the group. And so that jumped out to me right away. And then you see his physical ability. I mean, he's been working with John Beck for a long time, but the way he spins the ball, his footwork and all that is excellent. And it was really fun to see those guys firsthand. And really, that makes you miss football more than anything, watching those guys get out here and run routes together. I wish I could there was a number of times where I wish I could have laced them up and jumped out there and ran a corner route or something and caught the ball, but I would have been pretty slow at it and probably would have been overthrown. But, that's just so much fun. I love that kind of work in the offseason. Max and myself and Austin, I mean, we thrived in that. We just love to get together and throw routes on air and do whatever we could to get on the same page and be able to work with those guys and do that stuff when they didn't have to be doing anything at all. I mean, they had 3 weeks off. I think it was after spring ball and before they kind of started their summer workouts and stuff. Those guys were out there getting in extra work, grinding, working together, making sure they were on the same page. And I think that's going to really transition to success in the fall.
Dennis Pitt is on the Wise Guys tonight. He suited up between 2004 and 2009 at BYU with a 2-year mission in between. His 211 receptions for 2,883 yards remains a school record among tight ends, and he loves it when we say that. His 21 touchdowns are tied for second all-time among tight ends with Isaac Rex and just one behind the legendary Gordon Hudson. Rex, we asked him on Saturday if you were okay with him blowing past you on the touchdown board, and it could happen in the first game, and he said that he suggested that you come to Provo, and when he does that he hands you a football or some kind of ceremonial thing. and that was his idea. And I asked him if he went for it, and he said absolutely not. So.
I mean, that would be awesome. Listen, he's going to break that record. He's going to beat me. He's going to beat Gordon Hudson. I mean, he's already tied with me. Is that what you said?
Yeah. You and he are tied at 2, and Gordon's only 1 ahead.
Man, I didn't know we were already tied. So, I mean, he just needs 1 to beat me.
Just one.
He's gonna beat that against Sam Houston State. I might have to come out there for that game. I don't know that I could commit to get out there each and every week to be there when he scores a touchdown, if he doesn't happen in the first game. But I know Isaac well. I'm sure as soon as he breaks that record, I'll give him a call, and we'll have a nice chat about it.
Yeah,
but
he may call you first.
Yeah, I mean, listen, he's a great kid. It was so much fun, to work with him this offseason and just to get to know him better over the last 2 years or so has been so fun for me, to be completely honest. He's a stud. I mean, listen, he's probably going to catch a ton of touchdowns this year. He's going to shatter that record and have it by, probably 5 or 6 touchdowns, if not more. And so I'm proud of him and everything he's accomplished at BYU. I mean, the guy's a touchdown machine, and he can catch everything that comes his way. He's got a huge catch radius, and that is a massive weapon in the red zone. And a big reason why I think he started his career with 12 touchdowns his freshman year.
Yeah, that first year.
And has continued to build upon that. I mean, there's a reason he's got so many touchdowns, and it's a compliment to him and what he's able to do in the red zone for those guys.
It's been fun to watch him, Dennis. We watched last year, and we just all struggled with him because when he was healthy with a perfect ankle, he could get separation down in the red zone, and he struggled last year with that bad ankle. He's probably playing at 70%. Nobody ever admitted that, but he played at 70%. As I've watched him through fall camp, he's getting separation again. I just keep thinking, whoa, he's going to catch a bunch of balls this year. That's going to be really fun. We know he's a given. Like you mentioned his catch radius. Well, looking at these other tight ends, you got Ethan Erickson, Anthony Olsen, who I know you worked with, freshman Jackson Bowers, Mason Fakahu moved from running back to tight end. Are there any of these guys that you're particularly excited about and with the rest of these tight ends working behind Isaac Rex?
Yeah, I mean, from all accounts, it's a really good group. And I know there's a couple transfers in there that you mentioned who have had great fall camps. I haven't had a chance to work with those guys or see those guys. The only other guy that I'm really familiar with is Anthony Olsen. And, Anthony's an intriguing guy because Anthony's only really played like 2 years of football. He played basketball growing up. He played basketball through much of high school, switched to tight end and played football his senior year of high school, and then got a scholarship to BYU as a tight end. And so his story is pretty remarkable, but he's a really great athlete. I've played basketball against him. Down here we played basketball with the whole crew. And, he's a tough cover in basketball. He's got a lot of lateral quickness and a lot of body control. And so it's just a matter of time before he's able to kind of put it together on the football field, because with that kind of athleticism and his ability to change direction, he's a really big kid. If he can just kind of refine his route running a little bit and utilize that basketball skill in the tight end position, he's going to be a force to be reckoned with as he matures and progresses in this offense and with that team. And so he's definitely a guy that I'll pay attention to his career, and don't be surprised if you hear his name in a couple of years as the next great tight end for BYU.
When Dennis Pitta speaks, people listen because he caught 224 passes for 2,098 yards and 13 touchdowns during his 7 seasons with the Ravens, including a touchdown catch in the Super Bowl to beat San Francisco, and he had a couple of injuries in between that. Fantastic NFL career. But now let's talk about the Big 12, where your Cougars are a member of, and next year Utah's back in the Big 12. Are you okay with that?
Yeah, I love it, to be honest. And, I know there's been some mixed feelings amongst Cougar Nation with Utah coming to the Big 12. I'm not sure why people would be opposed to that at all. I think it's great for the rivalry. I think it's great for the league. Utah's a great program. I mean, we can't deny that. And, the fact that they've, been to so many Pac-12 championships over the last couple of years, that only helps the Big 12. That helps BYU. I think it helps everybody. And to not want to see that rivalry continue is just kind of blows me away. I love it. And I think BYU fans should be excited because, now we'll get to see that rivalry every year, hopefully, depending on how they kind of set things up. But you would imagine that those, BYU and Utah will play again every year, and with a lot more at stake now than we had during the independence years. And so it's back to kind of the old Mountain West Conference or the old WAC days when BYU and Utah were meeting and there was conference and all kinds of implications on the line. And as a BYU fan, I'm excited.
Yeah, Tom Homo was on with us last week for a couple hours, and we asked him that. He said, yeah, we'll likely play them every year. It may not be, we were like, hey, Thanksgiving weekend every year? Wouldn't that be great? And he goes, well, I don't know that it'll work out like that, but we'll certainly play them every year. And does that make a big, you just mentioned, hey, now conference implications, postseason implications, all of that. Does that make a huge difference in the tone of that game when all of that is on the line and you're not just playing as an independent?
Yeah, listen, that game is always more intense. There's always a lot on the line, whether you have those kind of conference and postseason implications or not. That game just means so much to the fan bases alone that you feel that kind of pressure and that urgency and that excitement throughout the week leading up to Utah and certainly in the game. But, when you have a conference championship or you have certain things on the line that add to the intensity of that game, it certainly heightens things. But listen, you never need more motivation to go and play well against Utah. And I don't think they need motivation to play well against us. It's still a great rivalry and one that I'm happy is going to continue for a long time now.
Hey, next year, if they meet in Thanksgiving time with championship implications, that'll be the first time that's happened since your last year in 2009. So it's been a long time coming to have an opportunity in that game, perhaps if they go divisions, to win that game and go to the Big 12 championship game.
Could be that.
Which is rare air for both. One of our live streamers has a question for you, Dennis. Who's your favorite NFL tight end currently in the league?
Currently? I'm actually a huge Travis Kelce fan, and I know that's probably a kind of a boring answer.
No, it's awesome.
Arguably the best tight end in the NFL,
yeah.
But his style of play really resonates with me, and he's a lot like me in regards to he's a receiver first and a blocker second.
Yeah.
But the way he's able to kind of work defenders and find open voids and the things he does, the craftiness he has in his routes and setting guys up. When you really watch and study him, which I got to do a lot, especially this past year, I was able to train a couple tight ends who were getting ready for the combine. One of which was Dalton Kincaid from Utah, who went in the first round. And so I watched a lot of film with those guys. And we watched a lot of Travis Kelce in particular to learn from kind of what he does and how he gets open and how he runs his routes. And I gained a lot more respect for him because of the subtle little things that your standard football watcher may not pick up on. But setting up defenders and the little things he does at the top of routes just create a little bit more separation. I really appreciate his game. And there's not a lot of tight ends in the history of the league, much less guys that are playing right now that are that crafty, that are that good,
right?
And that do the things that he does. And so, yes, it helps to have Patrick Mahomes as a quarterback. I'll give him that. And to have Andy Reid as a play caller. But I'm really impressed with his game. And he's, in my opinion, head and shoulders above kind of the rest of the league right now.
We go through the list of players that are currently in the NFL for BYU, and it seems like a record-long list. I mean, there's a lot of guys still in camps. And I realize the situation is different than the old days when they used to have multiple cuts. They just kind of wait to the end and everybody gets cut. But is there a Cougar that's currently in the NFL that you feel has the best situation to have a big season this coming season?
Well, I think there's the obvious answers. Obviously Fred Warner's the best at his position, but a guy that I think, I just spoke about Travis Kelce, and a guy that I think is in a unique position is Matt Bushman. He's able to sit behind Travis Kelce. He's able to learn from him. He's been there now probably about a year and a half or so. Mm-hmm. I know he was injured last season, but to be able to be in the same position room as Travis Kelce, to be able to watch how he runs routes, to be able to be in that offense with Andy Reid, Patrick Mahomes, all that. I know he's had a good camp. I know he's had a good preseason. He had a great preseason last year before he got injured and get put on IR. And so Matt Bushman, I think, is in a really good spot. I think, listen, he's still a bubble player and he's got to earn his way and he's going to have to play special teams and do all that. But I think he's in a really unique spot to really grow as a player and to really be able to make his mark in this league at some point. And so Matt Bushman's a great kid. I'm certainly rooting hard for him, and I hope he gets an opportunity to see the field a little bit this year, but at least be on that roster and be able to continue to learn from a guy like Travis Kelce, because that's invaluable in my opinion. And whether he stays with Kansas City or he moves on to another situation, I think the growth that he's going to be able to make during his time here in Kansas City is going to be pivotal for him.
Couple more questions with the great Dennis Pitta, and then we'll finish with your 5 favorite touchdown catches of your career. This month is the 15th anniversary of your best receiving game at BYU. August 30th, 2008. You caught 11 passes for 213 yards, but no touchdowns. So we're perplexed. How does a guy get 213 yards in a game without getting across the goal line? What do you remember from that?
You get a lot of catches on your side of the field. That's what happens. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think that was against Northern Iowa in our first game. Listen, it was a great start to the season for me. The opponent wasn't, the best, but I remember catching a bunch of seam balls, catching a bunch of deep outs, that kind of stuff. Big chunk plays where you could get a lot of yards. For some reason, I did not get in the end zone. I'm not sure I was even close to the end zone in that game, but I had a ton of catches and a ton of yards, and I remember that being a fun one. And that was week 1, so I think I was the leading receiver in the whole country.
Yeah.
After week 1 in the NCAA, or in Division I at least, and so it was a good way to start. And then I think the very next week we went to Washington, and I had another 100-yard game or something like that. So I got off to a hot start in that season. But that game in particular, it was just one of those games where felt like I was always open. Max was doing a great job of finding me, and the best part about that game is I think Austin Collie was pretty upset about it because I was the leading receiver.
Nice.
And he was not. And so, because through I think the first few weeks I was blowing him away with yards and catches, and then something flipped mid-season, and that's where he went on like 9 straight games of 100+ yards and ended up like one of the leading receivers in the country. So I think he was upset about how that season started, but that was the best part of that start for me.
Don't you love the internal competition?
Oh, yeah.
I remember that Washington game because in that game it seemed like every time BYU had a third down, Max would just throw it to Dennis.
Yeah.
And I remember we talked about Dennis having, I go, Dennis is a chain mover. Third down, everybody in the building's going, well, they're going to throw it to Dennis, but they still couldn't stop it, which I loved. And tight ends can be chain movers. We asked this question of former BYU tight ends coach, or BYU tight ends coach Steve Clark. We said, if the game's on the line and you need a reception, which tight end are you going with? And we gave him a choice, a list. We said, are you going to go with Gordon Hudson, Chad Lewis, Dennis Pitta, Johnny Harling, Matt Bushman, or Isaac Rex? I mean, we could, but there's so many good tight ends, but that's the list we gave him to pick from.
And he hemmed and hawed for a
He's like,
while.
I don't know if I should do this. I'm like, just give us one. He goes, okay. He says, I'm going 12 personnel. So see, he hedged. I'm going 12 personnel, and I'm putting Bushman and Pitta on the field. That's what he said. So we're going to ask you the same question, only you can't choose yourself. That's an obvious choice, right? With Coach Clark choosing it. So you got to pick one tight end other than yourself in BYU history. You know what? We're not even going to make you stick to that list. You got to complete a ball for the game winner. Who are you sending out there?
Okay, that's a good question. First off, I appreciate Coach Clark putting me as one of the 2 tight ends. He didn't say who he was throwing to, did he?
No, he just, I'm going 12 personnel. I'm going to have Dennis and Bushman out there.
I want to know who the top read in that play is. I want to know who the number 1 read coming off the ball is.
If it's Max, he's throwing it to you. We all know that. If Max is the quarterback.
True. So I'll also go 12 personnel. I'm going to put myself on one. I know you said I couldn't put myself, but here's why. I'm going to put myself on one side as a decoy, and I'm going to put Andrew George on the other side. And just like how we ended the game against Utah in overtime, we're going to throw it to Andrew. I'm going to pull coverage away on the one side, and Andrew's going to catch it and scamper into the end zone on a pivotal third down, and we're gonna score and win the game.
I love it.
Andrew George.
That's a great
shout
choice.
out for Colorado for Andrew George. Good choice. You know what? It would have been easy to go with the Clay Browns of the world.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many good tight ends. We were talking.
Listen, that's such a good list. Like it's so hard to pick one. I mean, listen, Harleen can go up and make a grab and a fade in the end zone. I mean, listen, I didn't have the luxury to really watch much of Gordon Hudson, but the things that guy did, are unrivaled in my opinion. I mean, he was unbelievable. There's so many names on that list.
Yeah.
I don't think you could go wrong.
We were talking last week, Dennis, and we were talking about this Jackson Bowers, who's a really high-rated tight end that came out of Arizona, and Max is pretty familiar with him because he's from down there. And we said to Max, "Tell us about this kid. He's a big-time recruit. Everybody wanted him. Is he like Dennis? Is he like Gordon Hudson? Is he like Chris Smith, who we haven't even talked about?" And he goes,
he's 6'5", 230.
He's like, "No, he's Daniel Coates." I was like, "Oh, we forget about Daniel Coates." I was like, "I will take Daniel Coates all day long," right? And it's just like there's so many good tight ends in BYU history. We forget about guys even like Daniel Coates, who played in the National Football League and was a really good player. What a tradition that BYU has. And
Doug Jolly is another one that
Doug
slips
Jolly
by.
and what's it like to be part of a fraternity of guys at a position that was that good at BYU?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's special to be able to call yourself a BYU tight end. I think it's an awesome fraternity. It has a history like not many schools can claim. And what was cool for me playing tight end at BYU is getting to know the guys who came before me. And Chad Lewis was at the tail end of his career when I was playing at BYU, and he would always be a guy that was down there working out with us, helping us in any way that we can. He wasn't working for BYU at that point. And so to be able to work with a guy like Chad, who you grew up watching as a tight end, is just so neat. And then for me to be able to work with the current tight ends, I think is an awesome pleasure for me, to be completely honest. And they probably don't care about it too much, but for me, it's just cool to get to know those guys and to help them in any way that I can, and help try to continue that tradition and that legacy. Because, like you mentioned, I mean, there's so many guys that have had tremendous careers as tight ends, not only in BYU, but also in the NFL. And another guy that comes to mind as we're talking here is Todd Christensen.
Yeah.
And I played with Toby, his son, and I got to know Todd a little bit. And, guys like that made such a big impact after BYU, and his impact in the NFL is tremendous. And so, what a storied and, huge legacy the tight end position is at BYU. And I'm just, blessed and grateful to have been a part of that.
Dennis, Steve Clark told us that you have one of his trophies in his office and that you won't come get it. And so it's just sitting in there. What is he talking about?
Yeah, what is he talking about?
I have no idea what he's talking about.
He's like, Dennis has a trophy here. He needs to come get it.
Yeah,
he has one of yours. He says, Dennis won't come get it.
And it's just sitting there.
We're like, what is he talking about?
I don't know. I mean, it's not a Super Bowl trophy. I don't know what kind of trophy we're talking about here.
It's not a Hall of Fame trophy. You got that. It's not All-American. You don't get trophies for being All-American. What? But we're going to find out, because we told him you were coming on the show. We were going to ask him. He was pretty
you
vague.
guys let me know what trophy he's holding.
Yeah, we'll figure it out. We're going to text you. And
he hasn't told me I need to come pick up anything. So he's, I think, hoarding my trophy is what's really going on.
You know what? The table is turned. We're going to follow up with Coach Clark. All right, you've scored a lot of touchdowns, and we prepped you a little bit on your 5 favorite. Usually we wrap up these interviews with 5 questions, but we've already done that.
You've done that.
Henry Marsh is here, and he's going to get his in just a little bit. But let's go with your 5 favorite touchdowns, NFL or college or high school. What's number 5?
Do you want to do them in reverse order? 5 back to 1?
Okay. 5 back to 1?
Yeah, with
1
being the best.
We want to end with the grand finale with the number 1.
Okay, we can do that. let's say number 5, I would argue is, well, I can't. So there was, if you guys remember the Colorado State game, my junior year, my senior year, no, it was my junior year because Austin was still playing with us. For whatever reason, we were in a dogfight with Colorado State.
Yeah, it was over there, right? Wasn't it the one over there?
I think so.
Yeah, it was at Colorado State. And that game came down to the absolute wire. And I think we had the ball with under a minute left. And I think with 20 seconds or under 20 seconds, we ran a play. And I caught the game-winning touchdown in that game. And I ran like a little dig, kind of pushed back out, caught the ball, and barreled my way into the end zone. I think I ran right over Mike Reed to get in the end zone, and we won the game with like 10 seconds left.
Was that
So that's probably my number 5.
Did your helmet come flying off in that one?
So no, but that's a great segue to
number
my
4.
next
Good
touchdown.
question.
All right.
So this would be number 4.
Okay.
Is that same game earlier in the second half, which arguably might be my best catch of my collegiate career.
Really? Was
when my helmet popped off, because I was just running a seam ball on the left side of the formation, and Max throws a ball kind of high and away, and I had to make a pretty good adjustment all the way back around and high point it kind of back behind my head. And right as I did that, I got sandwiched between 2 defenders, and it popped my helmet straight up. And as you guys know, my helmet tended to come off quite a bit.
Is that so that the
BYU,
TV cameras could get a good shot of you,
No,
just like
it's
Jason Chaffetz?
It's just because
was it accidental?
Dennis's top of his head is skinny and his cheeks are not skinny, and so the helmet just comes off.
Yeah, I mean, maybe I have a misshapen head. What's funny is I never had that issue in the NFL. I only had that issue at BYU, and I don't know why, but for whatever reason, it came off quite a bit. But whether my helmet came off a lot or not, I think it was going to come off no matter what in that play.
That was
the
wicked.
way that I got hit.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of the crown of both defenders' helmets caught me underneath the chin, and it just popped my helmet straight up. So that was definitely one of my most memorable catches, and probably my most difficult catches that I remember having at BYU. And just so happened that those two catches, number 5 and number 4,
number
were
5
in
and
the
4 in the
game.
same game.
Yeah, and that one got you on Sports Center too. The
That's
one
right.
with the helmet popping off. I'm pretty
got
sure.
on Sports Center. What's 3 then? These are pretty. Those are pretty spectacular. I can't wait for 3, 2, and 1 here.
Yeah, so 3 is actually, we're going to go way back to my freshman year at BYU. It was my first touchdown catch ever at BYU.
Oh.
And it was at Air Force. And it was like middle of the season. Now, if you guys remember, you mentioned Dan Coates. So Dan Coates was the starting tight end. I was a lowly walk-on tight end at about 210 pounds. Trying to play tight end, a converted wide receiver. And Dan Coates got injured the week before, so I was kind of the starting tight end at Air Force that year. And I caught a tight end throwback screen.
Oh, wow.
And
yeah.
scampered probably about 10 or 15 yards into the end zone for my first ever collegiate touchdown. And so for, most fans don't remember that play at all. For me, that one seared into my memory because it was my first ever touchdown at BYU. And so that was a big one. And that whole season, I didn't play a lot throughout the first probably 6 weeks or so of the season. I was kind of the backup to Dan. And then Dan broke his hand.
Mm-hmm.
And the last handful of weeks of that season, I played quite a bit. I actually had 2 touchdowns in that game against Air Force.
Nice.
I don't remember I think the second was like a little flat route or something like that. But that was a big one. Your first touchdown's always a big one.
Well, and did I hear that right? This is your first start then. So in your very first start, you had 2 touchdowns.
Yeah, it was my very first start at Air Force, and caught a little tight end throwback screen. And I think I've told you guys this story, but my freshman year, I was a lowly walk-on.
Yeah.
And
dressing
Coach
over
Croton
there
thought
in
my
the
name
field
was,
house. Yeah, go
Coach
ahead.
Cronin thought my name was Dustin most of the year.
Yeah, called you Dustin. I remember that.
I probably ran off the field, and he gave me a high five. Good job, Dustin. Good play. and so Dustin had his first touchdown that game.
There you go.
Dustin's in the Hall of Fame, so it worked out for him.
That's right. Okay, what's 2?
Okay, so we're actually going to skip to the NFL now.
Okay.
So number 2 is my first touchdown ever in the NFL. And it came in my second season. My first season in the NFL, didn't play a whole lot. I had 1 catch for 1 yard. That was my stat line for the whole year.
Oh,
Nice.
I forgot that.
Yeah. So I was a special teams player that first year, and I did not get in on much offense, to be honest. But I did against the Bengals. I ran like a little shallow route across the field, and I caught it and immediately got hit by the corner, got blindsided for 1 yard. So 1 catch for 1 yard was my highlight that year.
All right.
That being said, I was in my second year. It was Thanksgiving night. We played on Thanksgiving against the San Francisco 49ers, who we eventually met in the Super Bowl a couple years later. It was the first Harbaugh Bowl. So the brothers were going against each other.
That's right.
John R. Harbaugh against Jim, the 49ers Harbaugh. And my first ever touchdown, I ran a skinny post from about 10 yards out, crossed the safety's face, and caught it right in front of him for a touchdown. So primetime game on Thanksgiving, first ever NFL touchdown. We went on to win that game by a touchdown, and so that was a big one for me.
Yeah.
I think I got the player of the game ball for our team
Nice.
in that one. So that's a memorable one. That ball is up on my shelf in my office, and one that I will always remember.
And that takes us to the biggest touchdown catch in the history of Dennis Pitta.
Number 1.
I have a feeling I know
feeling
what you
you
guys.
guys-
I think it's an NFL
Can you
one.
guys guess what I'm going to say?
It has to be.
I have a pretty good idea. So
But you could surprise us. But it has to be
could be something crazy.
a short pass into the end zone of the Super Bowl.
Yeah, it was only a 1 yard touchdown, but it was in the Super Bowl. And I ran we were on the goal line. I ran a little corner route, and I actually stopped my route early because the safety was overplaying me to the outside. I couldn't get across his face. So I actually pushed him off and sat down inside, which we had never worked on in practice. And Flacco's kind of half rolling out, and he sees me do that, and he fires it right on me, and we get a completion for a touchdown in the Super Bowl. So I would have to think a Super Bowl touchdown catch is definitely memorable.
Seems like it would be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The farther I get away from that game and look back, I think the cooler that catch and that touchdown becomes.
Yeah.
When you can kind of look back and say, I had a touchdown catch in the Super Bowl. In the moment, it's kind of surreal. You don't really understand the weight of that. And the farther removed I get, I think I appreciate it more and more to be able to have played in that game, to have caught a touchdown in that game, and to won that game is awesome. So that's my list. That's my number 1 touchdown.
I love that. We talk a lot in this show about encouraging people to whatever they're doing, whether it's sports, whatever it is, sometimes just step back and take a moment to smell the roses and to recognize the cool things are happening all around you.
The great Dennis Pitta. Hey, how much rain did you deal with that tropical storm coming in this last week?
Yeah, it was not quite all it was hyped up to be.
Is that always the case? Isn't that always the case?
Yeah,
We thought we were going to get a bunch of rain from it, and we had some showers today, but nothing major.
Yeah, we had a lot of rain for about a day and a half, and a little bit of wind, but it wasn't. Hillary didn't quite pack as much of a punch as we were expecting, so we survived.
That's good. That's good. Are you going to be up for any games? So we need to have you come on a Game Day Live if you're going to be up.
Yeah, I'm planning on it. I don't know which one we're going to make it up for. I was actually just talking to Byron Rex the other day because Byron goes up to every single game.
Of course.
Right, and I was trying to figure out which one we're going to come up to. I'll probably get up there for one. I don't think I'll make it up for the first one, but we'll see. We might get
let us know
that
when
Oklahoma game or something.
yeah.
I was kind of looking at the schedule the other day. A couple good ones at home that we might have to catch. So
let us know when you come up. We'd love to have you involved with what we're doing.
Will do. Absolutely.
Hey, best of luck to San Clemente. Who you playing this weekend? Who are you playing Friday night?
We play Torrey Pines down in San Diego.
Yeah, are they any good?
They run a little bit of the wing tee, so
oh my goodness,
it'll be a little slower paced game than what we're used to. But
get some old footage
I
from Lavelle.
I hate teams that run the wing tee. I just hate it.
I know. I dislike it more than anything. It's tough to watch. I just, fortunately, I don't have to really game plan or prep for it because we're on the offensive side of the ball. But, we've played it feels like in high school, you always run into at least one or two of those teams every year that are still stuck on the wing tee. And I don't know why. For whatever reason, they just want to stick with it. It never works, but we'll see.
Well, Dennis, we look forward to having you on the show again once we get deeper into the season to kind of break down how things are going. And anyway, we love that you hang out with us, and we know you're busy, and we're proud of how you represent the Cougs and all that stuff. And congratulations on a San Clemente gig to straighten out Rex and Beck.
Yep.
A lot of pressure on you.
And we're gonna watch. We're gonna watch.
I feel the pressure.
We're excited that you've had some influence on this group of tight ends and receivers. We're gonna watch some of those guys you talked about, and you can watch them with pride, knowing you had a hand in prepping them for this season. That's pretty cool stuff. We appreciate you giving back like you do.
Yeah, thank you guys. Well, I'm excited to watch them too. It's always fun when you get to know the guys on a personal level. I mean, it makes you want to root for them that much harder. And so, hopefully they go out there and have a great season and stay healthy and have a lot of success on the field. So I'm their number one fan, and I'll be cheering them on the whole way.
All right, go get some dinner. The great Dennis Pitta on the Wise Guys tonight.
Thank you guys. Have a good one.
Thanks, Dennis. A Saturday at All Stars Navy and number 13 Notre Dame in Ireland at 12:30 p.m. Mountain Time on NBC. Later that day, San Jose State's at number 6 USC.
That's the one I want to watch because I want to know how good USC is going to be this year. Is Caleb Williams all healthy and they're ready to go? Because they could be really good.
DJ, let's put up our game day promo if we could while we bring Henry up to the hot seat. The season premiere of Game Day is 1 week from Saturday, September 2nd on BYU TV. We'll be live with the fans at Cougar Canyon just outside Lavelle Edwards Stadium for the first hour, and then we'll move our broadcast platform inside the stadium and show you all the festivities like nobody else can. 2 hours of pregame coverage with culminating with BYU and Sam Houston at 8:15 Mountain Time. That's 10:15 Eastern Time. You see the Eastern Time. Game days at 8 Eastern, kickoffs at 10:15 Eastern on FS1, followed by our live post-game show on BYU TV. We are just about there, and we are thrilled about it. Our next guest is one of the most decorated athletes in the history of BYU. And he wrote this, so I'm going to try to get it right. Just kidding. We mentioned earlier that Kenneth Rooks is the reigning U.S. national champion in the steeplechase. Well, this man is a 9-time U.S. national champion, 5-time BYU All-American, was ranked the number 1 steeplechase runner in the world in 1981, 82, and 85. It's our pleasure to welcome the Hall of Famer Henry Marsh to the Wise Guys, all the way from Twin Falls, Idaho. It's great to have you here.
It is so good to be here. It's like this is my BYU family. I watch you guys, and you guys are masters. And I remember, Blaine, we were
there together at times. It was like you were like ruling the world when we were together.
But I remember running into you at the University of Washington football game. We were at the gym at the hotel working out together.
That's right.
But it's just like I've gone through these memories.
Yeah.
Because I don't think I've been on a sports interview for 35 years.
Really?
Which is crazy.
Tonight's the night.
Yeah. So it's so much fun because I watch Sports Nation every day, and it's so good that you guys found time for Pitta. So.
I know, because like Jerem and Dennis have this thing going where they act like they actually really like each other, and that's a bit. He goes, sorry, we don't have time for Dennis. And
we always have time for Dennis.
And how about Henry coming down from Twin Falls? Elder Sikahema just bailed on us to come in on Zoom because he's got his birthday dinner, and Henry
all the way in Salt Lake.
Henry comes all the way down from Twin Falls and jumps in with us here in studio. I'm so pumped about having you here.
We got a lot of stories we want to dive into.
Oh my goodness! I started thinking about all these things that have happened, and there's so many things.
Let's start with the news of the day.
Okay.
And Kenneth Rooks finishes 10th in Budapest in the Worlds at the 3,000 steeplechase. When I interviewed you for a Deseret News article, you thought, you know what? He might be able to take 10th. And he did take 10th. How big of a deal is it?
Well, I mean, it's 10th in the world. That's not bad.
No.
Yeah, so,
that's something, right?
Highest finishing American in the World Championships. But the most important thing is he now feels like he belongs. You have to experience it. It was his first international competition. You know what my first international competition was?
I think it was the Montreal Olympics.
Montreal Olympics, 76 Olympics, my very first one. And you know what place I came in?
10th.
10th.
You came in 10th.
So it was the same thing, you know. The only difference was at the time I was only a second off the American record, and now the American record is down to 8 flat.
Yeah.
You know, the times have changed, and the shoes have made a tremendous difference. And
So he's over in Budapest. What's it like running in Budapest? Because you've done that.
I have run in Budapest. This is a brand new stadium, but you know, internationally, when you compete in Europe, those stadiums and the people go crazy over track and field. It's much bigger deal over there than it is in the United States. It's one of the most popular events, and so. You know, the adrenaline. It's like 84 Olympics in Los Angeles with the Coliseum packed with people. You know, just the energy and the vibe and everything else is incredible. So, yeah. I saw Ed said that he felt like he maybe ran one race too many this year. The last
Really?
one. Yeah, that's what he said. Desert News. I think it's a long season, but man, my hat is off to him. He's got a great future. You know. I went from 10th, 5 years later, I was number 1 in the world. He could, you know, I think he's got that kind of progression. What's impressed me was that he has made a big jump. And when they make a big jump, that's mean there's more to give. You know, it's not like he just barely broke some records and barely improved. He improved a lot. And when somebody improves a lot, you know there's more there.
And is steeplechase a sport where you do get better, a little bit better? It's not one of these things where, hey, when you're at 19, you're at your peak, right? This is something where he can continue to get better. He still has a senior in college. He's got another year left to compete in the Big 12. Can he do what you did over the next 5 years? Can he improve that much like you did?
Sure. The times are different today than when I was there, but absolutely, he's young. I peaked at 31.
31.
My fastest times was when I was 31 years old. 84 Olympics I was 80, and my last Olympics I was 34. Mm-hmm. So I mean, he's got a long career in front of him, and I'm very, very impressed with him.
Did you think you would ever see an 8:03.53, which won it all today? Did you ever think you'd see that when you were running?
Well, they ran in the 76 Olympics 8:08 in that final.
Really?
Yeah, that broke the world record, yard route, from Sweden. So, yeah, you know, my fastest I got down to 8:09.
Okay.
So it was ballpark.
Yeah. Yeah. Were you surprised? Did you think the time would be lower today for the championship?
I thought they'd take off faster sooner.
Really?
It was slow the first few laps, which surprised me. And then they took off. But, you know, the world record was set 7:52 this year.
Wow.
And so, you know, as I mentioned to you, I said, you know, I think Kenneth has a good shot of making the finals. He's still got a big gap until he gets up to the medals, the podium part.
Right. 16 seconds at least.
Yeah.
You talked about a little bit. We're talking strategy. Hey, it went out faster than I thought, or it went out slower than I thought, because there is a lot of strategy in this. I was fascinated to hear Kenneth talk about in the U.S. Championships when he stumbled over that first barrier, that he came back and said, yeah, I thought of every scenario in my head. And if I had fallen early, this is what I was going to do. I was going to pace myself. If I fell late, this is what I was going to do. He had a plan for what he was going to do if he did that. And it became one of the most spectacular things I've seen in BYU sports ever. I mean, when you were preparing back in the day, did you think through it that much? Was there that much strategy to it? If I fall, this is what I'm going to do?
Well, I'm glad that he did fall, because it gave me a chance to be with you guys.
Well, he had to get back up,
Exactly.
you know. And
He
then
did
he had
have
to
to
win.
win, but otherwise, you know, he said, well, let's talk to Henry about that. No, you don't plan. You know, people that choke in athletics are the people that let negative thoughts in.
Yeah.
And if you let a negative thought in, it'll fulfill itself. And so in a way, I would never think I'm going to fall in a race. You know, that was foreign to me. But I did. You know, I hit a barrier, the last barrier in the World Championships. Very first World Championships in '83 in Helsinki, I hit the last barrier.
Man.
And I was in second place when I hit it. And I fell in my very first steeplechase at BYU. You know, we used to have the track inside LaVell Edwards Stadium.
That's right.
Yeah.
And
I remember those days.
Oh, yeah. And My very first steeplechase, I not only went in the water jump, I also hit a barrier. So, those things happen. I could tell you so many fall stories. In Olympic trials in Indianapolis, Jim Nance, my cohort at KSL, he was calling the race. I got tripped up with 200 meters to go in my semifinal, and you had to be in the top, I think it's 6 in order to make it to the final. Boy, you roll and you go quick,
Right.
But no, I don't think you ever. I think you prepare for the final of a race. Like, it's different taking that barrier to full sprint at the end of a race than it is during the race. And so you do those sort of things in practice. But I thought it was pretty unique for him to say, yeah, I was preparing for a fall early in the race and how I'd respond to it. That thought never entered my head.
I thought that was crazy.
Yeah.
But it worked.
It'll be in the movie script.
Yeah, he didn't go out and then just try to catch everybody immediately. He had an idea in his mind. No, I just need to catch him by the last lap, and I'm going to beat him coming around.
Okay, so I talked, when he broke my record, Ed and I got on the phone with him. We did a conference call. I told him, I said, Kenneth, you need to go look at my 83 World Championship race. And in that race, in the middle of the race, they took off really hard, and I was literally 20 meters behind the pack.
Wow. Yeah.
And the commentators were making fun of me, saying, surely Marsh is not going to win today, and he's running like an amateur. But I knew my pace. And I was right on and spot on, and I got back up into the pace. And I talked to him about that, the exact same thing. And that's when he said, I went into Henry Marsh mode. That's
right.
That's what he was talking
about. So he's
about.
talking about, I'm not going to go get this back right now.
Yeah.
I'm just going to run my pace, and eventually I'll catch these guys.
And if you look at his splits in that race, he was 66 every lap except the lap he fell, and he was 69 on that. Yeah. He hit the exact pace he should have every lap, and 3 seconds he lost on the lap he fell.
Wow.
But quite
strategic.
a day.
Amazing.
Quite a day for Kenneth Rooks. BYU Hall of Fame runner Henry Marsh is on the Wise Guys. We're live on YouTube, Facebook, Twitch, and wiseguys.com. If you have a comment for Henry, let us know on the live stream, and we'll pass it on to him. Your running career actually began with a football story, and everyone's got football all over the place, and it's that time of year. But you're in Richardson, Texas. You're the quarterback of the Northridge Junior High School football team. What happened?
Oh, I got a story before that. When he asked me to speak, I said, it's football season. You don't want me speaking about track. It's football season.
We love it all.
So I'm going to talk about football today.
That's right.
So 6th grade, I grew up in Texas, in Dallas.
Which is the biggest football
state
there is, right?
Football's a religion there. At church, we had our headphones on and everything else. But 6th grade, I was on a team in Dallas. We were the city champions. And we played the city champions from Oklahoma City in the annual Turkey Bowl in Highlander Stadium in Highland Park, Dallas.
6th graders from Dallas are playing 6th graders from Oklahoma.
That's how they
Football's
do it.
big down there.
Yeah.
Right?
I'm playing split end. And we punt the ball, and I go running down the field. The other team fumbled it. I picked it up, and I ran 34 yards the wrong way.
Oh, man.
I had 1 yard for a touchdown, and I had the nickname Wrong Way Marsh. I was crying.
Wrong Way Marsh.
I was crying at halftime and everything else, but we came back and won the game 7-0, so it turned out okay. but then I was playing quarterback, what you're referring to.
Ninth grade, you were
grade quarterback. We had two LDS boys in my grade. We were the two quarterbacks. And my favorite play was the naked bootleg. But we were 0-10 that year.
Yeah.
So,
man.
Didn't work out.
Is that why you're like, forget football, I'm going to go run track?
So I set a city record in my first year that I blossomed in running that year.
So football was, after that season, it was like, you know what, there's got to be something else for me.
Yep.
And it was track.
It was track. I broke a city record. I thought that's what was, my family moved to Corpus Christi. And my 7th and 10th grade year, I was 7th in the state of Texas in the mile and in cross country. A hurricane blew down our house. My family moved to Hawaii. Oh, by the way, in Dallas, you know who some of my neighbors were?
Who?
Lee Johnson, Dave Fox.
Yeah.
And I just go start thinking about this family. Anyway, moved to Hawaii. And then, there wasn't the competition, so I stayed champion, You
were the only person running around the island?
Yeah. So anyway, there's lots of stories. I went to the National Junior Olympics, met Paul Cummings, who was going to go to BYU. He's a year ahead of me. And Paul was, unfortunately, he passed away.
Yes.
He drowned in Strawberry Lake, but amazing person and my hero and idol. But my graduating class at Punahou had 4 All-Americans at BYU.
Really?
Really? Who are the 4?
Okay, so here's your test.
Yeah, Punahou's a good school.
We had a class of 400, and out of that 400,
Four
four were
All-Americans
All-Americans
at
at BYU, my graduating class. Mike Moss, baseball.
Yeah.
Marcus Conahilly, football. Malia Ane, volleyball. Ane family. Myself. So we had 4
Wow.
in my graduating class.
How about that?
And the cool thing was...
That's why they don't like us over there in the islands. By the way, if you're watching Wise Guys in the islands, you know what we're talking about, because for a while there, all their athletes came over here.
Do you know there was like a 6 or 7 year span where Lavelle signed the Hawaii Football Player of the Year to come to BYU? Like 6 or 7 years in a row, and that rivalry became great because of that. We got over there. They hated us. We kept taking their guys.
Oh, yeah.
We took four All-Americans out of Henry's
they don't
class.
like it.
They don't like that.
It was awesome, but so Punahou, I highly recommend high school in Hawaii. My father and Coach Robinson were both regional representatives. The church came out with this regional representative program at the time when we were in Texas, and he kept asking, Coach Robinson, what does my son need to run in order to get a scholarship to BYU? And so every regional rep meeting, he would ask him, he said, well, he needs to run a 4:18 his junior year in high school. So I ran a 4:18, and I'll never forget the day. Coach Robinson called me, our home in Hawaii, and offered me a half scholarship to run track at BYU. And that was my dream, because growing up in Dallas, there weren't very many LDS. And that was my dream. I did get offered from Stanford and Boise State and some other schools, but it wasn't even a second thought, wanting to come to BYU.
So you go on your mission, and there's a running story on your mission which really kind of sets you on course for greatness that came after what, about a year and a half of not running at all?
So, at the time, I don't know if you remember this, Blaine, but at the time, they really discouraged the top athletes from going on missions.
Yeah, we've talked about that a little bit. It wasn't like they said, hey, don't go.
Right.
But
it's okay if you don't, because you can do more good for the church.
Right. There was a lot of that conversation.
Giff Nielsen and I would always talk about this, and we would hang out with Terry Bell, who was a sports writer. Do you remember Terry?
Yeah, I remember Terry.
At the sports editor, Daily. We can go through so much history. Anyway, but they encouraged me to go on one.
They said, you beat it.
I can't use you right now. Go on a mission.
I didn't letter my freshman year. Yeah. I didn't letter in cross. I didn't make the traveling squad in cross country. I was 1 spot away, and I missed lettering and track by 1 spot. I go on my mission. And we, Brazil, it took a long time to get our visas to go to Brazil.
Right.
So we spent 3 months in the mission training center here in Provo. And we go to the football games. They had a missionary section at the football games. And
those really
rules have changed.
Yeah.
Rules have
changed. And I ran in the school turkey trot. And
as a missionary.
And I won the race. I had this LDS T-shirt on, and the next day in the Daily Universe, it had a picture of it with the caption, Elder Marsh, where's your companion?
Oh, man.
He wasn't at the finish line.
So I went went to Brazil, went a year without running a step, and put on 25 pounds. I thought about this because when Rook said he put on 25 pounds, it dawned on me, I wonder if that was beneficial to get out of shape and put the weight on and then take it back off. Mm-hmm. And I asked a trainer that last week, and he said, yes, because it builds your bone density and other things. And I thought it was pretty fascinating. Anyway, that's another topic.
So your body adapts to the extra 25 pounds, and then you come back and drop the 25 pounds, but your tendons and ligaments and bones are now strengthened by the extra 25. It's like running with a 25-pound weight vest on.
I do know that the East Germany's, and we could talk forever about running behind communist China, East Germany and everything else. They had all of their top women get pregnant because they were better after they had a child.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Wow.
Anyway, we got off topic, but did I get off topic?
But you, in Brazil, you put on 25 pounds.
Put on 25 pounds. And then my last 6 months, we were out tracking in Belo Horizonte, and I run across this track club. And I asked my mission president, can I run with them? And he said yes. And so I started running with them and ran in the Brazilian club championships. And I came in second place to the Brazilian, and it was outside my mission. My mission president let me go. And those last 6 months. If I hadn't, I would, because I went to the Olympics 11 months later.
Did you drop the 25 you put on while you were running with the club?
Just about. I don't think I totally did. I came back and found out I had a worm, and I think that helped get it back off.
Yeah, that'll drop weight quick. That'll drop the weight like crazy.
But if he hadn't, I don't think I would, because that year, in March of 1976, my fastest steeplechase was 9 minutes and 25 seconds.
Wow.
That's March, April, May, June, July, August. 5 months later, I came in 10th in the Olympics and ran 8:23.9.
That's impossible. That's crazy.
It was a miraculous year, and if we had time, I could go through a lot of detail on it.
Before we have a couple of Olympic questions for you. But before we get to the Olympics, you come home in your first race, and you go get a great time. You qualify for the NCAAs. Then you go to the NCAAs and you qualify for the Olympics. Now you're on the plane ride home. You don't even have a scholarship. You're a walk-on. They didn't even give you a scholarship yet. And you run into Coach Robinson on the plane. Tell us about that.
I was on the plane. After the NCAAs, I came in second in the NCAA. I was the top American. Back in my day, we had the world record holder in our race. I mean, that's when the Kenyans ran in the NCAA.
Right.
They weren't off that.
Yeah.
And so the NCAA record is set by Henry Rona, who I ran against. He ran 8:05 as a collegiate. So I'm a walk-on on the team because I'm a nobody. And the coach, after I came in second, Coach Robinson, who's one of my all-time favorite people, he pulled me and said, "Henry, have you thought about the Olympics?" And I said, "Who, me, Coach? The one who's not on scholarship?"
Well played.
I got a full ride.
Yeah, I hope so.
You had a full ride before the plane landed?
Full ride before the plane landed. And 2 weeks later, made my first Olympic team, ran 8:27 again, and pinching myself and go to the Montreal Olympics where roommate with Bruce Jenner. Oh, I got to tell you about, you were talking about tight ends.
Yeah.
Everything brings up a story.
Right.
So Chris Smith is a really close friend of our famly. So I've done a lot of stuff with
Ty
Chris.
Detmer's tight end.
I did mention Chris.
You mentioned it. That's what made me think of it. So he's coming. He sat with us at BYU football games. And then Andrew George. Do you know who his father is?
Brother George.
Mr. George.
His name is Richard George. He was an Olympic javelin thrower. Richard and I made the Olympics.
I did know that. Andrew spent a lot of time at our home. He's a teammate of my oldest son, Kellen. Andrew can do the best.
So his dad threw the javelin?
His dad was an Olympian.
His dad, Richard, and I made the Olympic team the same day.
Wow.
I forgot Andrew's dad was an Olympian, but I did know
Richard
that.
George. And then he went off to Harvard MBA school and then moved to Colorado. But so all the tight end stories, I was thinking, Gordon Hudson. When I was working at KSL, I was a sports reporter. That's why I love watching you guys and watching your, how you do things, because I had a blast with Paul James, if anybody remembers him.
Oh, everybody remembers
Paul James. And he wrote a story in Cougar Tales. If we had time, I'd tell you about it.
I got that book.
Well, go East Germany trip we took. It was a hoot.
Okay.
And then Steve Cyphers, Craig Bolerjack, and Jim Nance.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
So I was with Nance, and Nance would always say, "If I'm not networked by 29, I'm out of this business." But that guy was phenomenal.
Yeah, he was
what a
good.
great guy. But anyway, so I got
all those
sidetracked.
guys had great careers.
So what were we talking about?
So you're now on scholarship after. But I want to go back to the '76 Olympics in Montreal. Prior to your run, you notice there's this whole group of fans that are pulling for you.
Oh, yeah.
Which is a little bit crazy because you don't know anybody in Montreal. Like, what's the story behind that? Like, why are these people pulling for you?
I got to tell you, it's so cool to wear that USA jersey.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just such a thrill. And so we go into Montreal, and the minute you walk in the opening ceremonies, USA walks in, everybody's going crazy. Well, I was the only American in the Olympic final in the steeplechase in '76, and so I didn't know anybody. My mom was there. My dad was mission president in Venezuela at the time, so he couldn't come. But my mom was there. And I heard all these people yelling for me, and it dawned on me. I said, I don't know anybody. And then I remembered. McDonald's had a promotion at the time where they gave out Olympic coupons that had an Olympic event on it. And if an American got a gold medal in an event you had a coupon for, you got a free Big Mac. And if they got a silver medal, you got shakes and fries. And
So
you got
they're
a
all
bromance.
behind the...
I knew that everybody had the steeplechase coupon, was rooting for me. So it put a lot of pressure on a young kid. But it's the same thing that Rooks went through today. It made you feel like, okay, I've been there.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why he's going to do great things in the future. You've been there, but
So
yes,
you run at those Olympics. You run the fastest time in U.S. history. You finished 10th at 8:23.99, and then Rooks today finishes 10th at the Worlds at 8:16.78.
8:20 today.
Right, 8:20 today. That's right. I just saw that. So 3 seconds 3 seconds apart after all these years.
Yeah. Here's what I'm told, and and I don't want this to sound like sour grapes or anything because it's not, but I'm told the new technology in the shoes make 3 seconds a mile difference. I think Eyestone told me that.
Wow.
Really?
And so
Are they just bouncier? They give you more, like, so they give more what is that called?
They have more
rebound
bounce. And so in the steeplechase, probably 6 seconds, these new shoes. I was up at the BYU Oregon game, and we went to the Nike store, and Danny Ainge was in there. So Danny and I were talking, and I was showing Danny these shoes. Danny went and bought a pair.
Oh, yeah.
He's still looking for speed.
But no, they make a huge difference. Doug Robinson wrote a story about it in Deseret News you could read, but tremendous difference in the times. But
you mentioned Danny. Dave and I were thinking about back at our time when we were there, when we were at BYU, and you think through it. So you got Danny Ainge playing basketball. This is a team that's going to the Elite Eight with a bunch of NBA guys on that team. And Steve Trumbull was an NBA guy, but he was the biggest star in Europe playing in Spain. So basketball's off the charts. Giff Nielsen, Mark Wilson, Jim McMahon is during that time that they're around. Elaine Michaelis and Courtney Leishman have Tina Gunn Robinson, who's an All-American and a Hall of Famer in basketball. Glenn Tuckett and Gary Pollins. They've got Morris and Dane Orge and Vance Law and all these guys on the baseball team. Corey Snyder and Wally Joyner.
My freshman year, Kreshmir Chosik.
Yeah, I was like, people ask me, "Whoa!" They go, "What in the world?" That was like Camelot back then for BYU. What was that like being at BYU during that time?
Okay, I got a question for you. And this I consider, maybe I'm biased, but maybe the greatest event in BYU sports history. And it was the 1984 Olympic trials. And you know what happened?
The 84 trials?
That was Fredericks?
84 Olympic trials.
No, Frankie's older than that.
No, Frankie's not U.S.
Okay.
U.S. Olympic trials. BYU athletes swept the distance races.
In the 84 Olympic trials?
Steeplechase, 5,000 meters, Doug Padilla. 10,000 meters, Paul Cummings.
Wow.
We won all the distance races won by BYU athletes in the 84 Olympic trials.
See, and I used to hang out with these guys because, we didn't have that big of a training room, and the hot tub, the jacuzzi wasn't that big. And you know what? You could fit Doug Padilla, Paul Cummings, even Ed was skinny back in those days, and Henry. I could get in there with those. You could only put 2 offensive linemen in there, but you could sit in there with 5 track guys. So these were my guys.
What was it like? What was it like on campus with all those names and all those sports?
But something, back then, there wasn't the publicity. We didn't have Sports Nation. We didn't have the internet. Nobody knew who you were. I walked around campus. Nobody knew me.
I knew him. Let's correct that. I know who
I was up at Orem High School. I didn't know either of you guys.
Catch this. 84 Olympics, people wanted to congratulate me. You know how they did it? Telegrams.
So you had telegrams.
84.
Yeah, that was
telegrams.
We didn't have cell phones in 84.
No.
We didn't even have live sports on ESPN until 84.
You know when people go, call me like this, and they do like this? We didn't even have that.
Like that. Now it's just hang loose.
Hang loose. Okay, I got to tell you a couple. I know we don't have a lot of time. I got to tell you a couple stories from football stories. So after the Miracle Bowl, who was the nose tackle for SMU?
Reuben Carter.
No. But you had
Michael Carter.
Michael Carter.
Yeah, Michael Carter. Is that crazy? I remember that.
Michael Carter.
That is a little crazy.
He's Olympic disc and shot putter.
He made the U.S. It wasn't the Olympic team I was with him, but one of the national teams. And I saw dawned on me, go, Michael, Holiday Bowl. And he just goes, shut up.
Yeah, he was one of the top.
With Michael, if he says shut up,
the shot put was his forte, right? He's one of the top shot putters in the world, right?
Yeah.
Playing nose. I remember when he was playing for them back in those days.
Okay, so I'll get another quick story. I'm thinking of some stories. So I'm working at KSL, and I'm doing reports, and I'm going to interviewing athletes and everything else. So I'm supposed to interview Bosco.
Yeah.
I come down to BYU. He runs away. He's running through the locker rooms trying to get away because he didn't want to get interviewed.
Yeah, Robbie didn't love to be interviewed. We had him on the show for like an hour.
Yeah, he's changed his tune now.
And then you had, and I think I told you about this one, Steve Young and Jim Nance were doing a pregame. I forget what game it was. It was around that 84, 85 time. It was a big game. They're down the field doing the pregame.
Yeah, they went down on the field and did it. I remember this.
I'm working at KSL at the time. I'm up in the booth. I'm doing all the stats and everything. And so the game starts and they're nowhere. They're stuck in the elevator. And I got a live mic in front of me and they're stuck and the game started. And I was going, should I do it? Should I do it?
And you wanted to.
I know I wanted to. On the screen that said audio difficulties. And Spence Kennard comes up. He was the boss at the time. Yeah. He comes up and he starts calling the game.
Yeah, well, Spence was the voice of music and spoken word at that time as well.
Right.
Good man.
Yeah, he's the one that hired.
Those guys got stuck in the elevator.
He's the one that hired. They got stuck in the elevator, and I'm up there with a live mic doing stats and stuff. But at the time, that was back in the days of Bill Marcroft.
Yeah. And Marcroft and Paul James and that whole crew.
Marcroft.
Legends.
He pushed me hard to go to Channel 2 to work with him. But I'm loyal.
You made the right decision.
He's a KSL guy. It's you talk about Kresimir Chosic and all these people that we just mentioned. There's been some tremendous athletes to come through BYU over the years, and you've witnessed it all. You were there for a big time. You've witnessed it all. Who's the greatest athlete in BYU history?
Danny Ainge.
You think Danny's the greatest?
Danny's amazing.
Yeah.
Well, that didn't take you.
I loved your interview with him too. I went back.
So fun.
I didn't know about the Wise Guys, and what a great name. But I've gone back and looked at interviews, and Tom Homo was phenomenal. Danny Ainge was phenomenal. But here's somebody else that I went to school with. Alema Harrington.
Punaho.
Yeah. He was a little kid on the track team. He was on the JV track team when I was running.
Alema was running track?
Yeah. And his dad, was famous, Al.
Al Harrington, the South Pacific man.
He would show up sometimes at the track.
So Al played Ben Kakua on Hawaii 5-0 on the old series, their dad. And then he had down on Lure Street in the Polynesian Palace. He had a show that ran for years there. One of those famous people in the islands.
We've had Alema on the show.
Yeah, Alema's been on with us. And I just saw Tao, his brother, the other day at the scrimmage.
Yeah.
So
Alema and I go way back to Punaho, and he was just a little runt on the JV track team back then.
1981, you are the #1 steeplechase runner in the world. What does it feel like to be the best in the world at something?
It's so bizarre to me because in 1976, we're going to the Mount Sac Relays, and I'm next on a bus next to Jay Sylvester. Jay Sylvester at one time held the world record in the discus. He was an Olympic medalist.
LJ
Sylvester. And I asked LJ, because I'm a walk-on nobody, what's it like to be #1 in the world? I asked him that.
Yeah.
Because it was mind-boggling.
What did he say?
Mind-boggling to me. And I don't even remember his answer so much as I was just so stunned to think about it. And then there was one year, 1985 more than 1981, I knew there was nobody on the planet that could beat me. I went undefeated that year, set the American record, ran my sub-4-minute mile and everything else. And it was just bizarre. It's the most bizarre feeling.
Did you ever just step back and go, I'm the fastest person in the world at this distance? And
this year anyway.
Yeah, but did you actually step back out of yourself and go, that's crazy?
No, I pinched myself, and I can promise you this, and I won't try to get too spiritual right now, but there was a hand in my life, my whole life.
You're allowed to get spiritual on this show.
Okay. When I was 1, I was at my grandfather's house who had shingles. My mom was cooking for him. I go in the backyard. I fall in his fish pond. He lived up in Federal Heights in Salt Lake. Something prompted him to get out of bed and go in the backyard. He pulled me out and saved my life, mouth-to-mouth. They did resuscitation. I was given a blessing by his home teachers, Spencer Kimball and Harold B. Lee.
Oh, wow. That was his home teachers?
He was in the 12.
Yeah.
And I was given a blessing at that time. And I was a blue baby, and I look back, and I see so many things in my life where it wasn't me. Things, and the hand of the Lord has been in my life so much. And I see it in Ken's life. Yeah. And we a lot of times we just don't recognize it. But when you get older and you look back, you see it a lot more. And Coach Robinson, before the 76 Olympics, he took me to the church office building and had them give me a blessing.
Really?
So there's a lot. It was a miraculous year, but my dad had all the missionaries praying for me all that year because he's mission president of Venezuela.
To make the Olympics, 9 months removed from a mission.
Yeah.
And we see athletes come now, and Kalani's figured it out that if an athlete comes home in the summer, he's not playing in the fall because of a hamstring or a knee. They get hurt, and so they try to give them a year to get their body back, and then they come charging back. But you go right to the Olympics.
It's different sports. I'm sure it's different adaptation. And I had, as I said, I don't know why I was given that opportunity to run in Brazil. If I hadn't, I wouldn't have made the Olympics that year. And so I had some preparation. And a lot of things happened that year. I changed my foot strike. I changed my hurdling techniques, improved them, my running style. And a lot of things that happened that would not have happened if I hadn't gone on a mission. And so I just, I count my blessings. I still don't comprehend it, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
I'm Joe, ordinary Joe.
Yeah, he's never been that.
I don't comprehend it. I was a nobody on BYU's team my freshman year. They didn't even give me a scholarship my second year, and to have that happen, I still blows my mind. I don't understand it.
BYU Hall of Fame runner Henry Marsh on the Wise Guys tonight in our Provo studio, 261 miles from his home in Twin Falls, Idaho.
Right. Unbelievable.
So
wait. My granddaughter had a tennis match.
I know you were down.
But it got canceled because of the rain.
Oh, that's right. That's right. So how many miles do you think you've run over the course of your life?
See, one of the reasons I ran for so long, I was 13 years straight in the top 10 in the world. And it was because I was and everybody laughed at my workouts. Because I heard you somebody interviewed Ken Rooks, and he said he does about 70 miles. I did like 55 miles a week. Which is very low but I was very specific. I had some great mentors. My coach was Bill Bowerman. And we could talk a lot about Bill Bowerman, and I knew Phil Knight because Nike was handing shoes out the back of a car back then.
Right.
So I've sat with Phil Knight at basketball games, and he was a big track athlete, and Bowerman would make my shoes, and that's a whole nother story we could talk about sometime. But how did I get off on that?
We're talking about how many miles you've run in your life.
Also, Bowerman was he had the sage advice. At the time, I didn't understand it, but now I totally understand it. He said, after every workout, you should feel like you could do a little bit more. And it kept you from breaking down. And he was very modern in his approach. He was very big on date, goal, pace, and those sort of things. And so because I was a lower mileage, I'm a heavier set person and very specific. Bowerman said, he would say, Henry, don't run hills. I've never seen a hill on a track.
and he's talking about position-specific training, right?
Yeah. And so, we wouldn't weight lift. Why would I want to put on, build more pecs and have arms like, this guy here? Because it doesn't help my run.
Old guy arms.
It doesn't help. It doesn't help you run faster. And it's excess weight. So we were very specific. Long run Monday, distance intervals Tuesday, light Wednesday, speed Thursday, light Friday, race simulation Saturday, and I always took Sunday off. And I did 6 days a week, 11 months out of the year, 2 workouts a day, and I tell people I never missed.
I did 6 days a week, 2 workouts a day for how many straight years?
I was 13 years in the top 10 in the world.
That's how
that was after college.
That's how you get the top in the world, and most people won't do that.
It's doing ordinary things consistently that give you extraordinary results. It's that simple.
I got to write that down. Say that again, because that is something to live by. So doing ordinary things
consistently over time give you extraordinary results, and that's the habits we form.
Yeah.
And you can apply it to anything in life. But
I love that.
I did ordinary workouts. There's guys that would do. Paul, the coach up at Weber State now, Paul Pilkington was on the national team in marathon and stuff. I go work out with Weber State. I'd only do it twice a week because their workouts were so hard. I do my workout and then he kept going, And so they laughed at my workouts, but it was the right thing for me, and it created longevity.
It worked out.
And the number of miles and all that's really specific. I'm trying to remember the guys that we were around back in those days. I think Doug Padilla probably didn't do as many miles and did a little more speed work. Ed Eyestone could run forever and just run people into the ground, and he did a high mileage. 2 different things, similar results, right?
Doug was my training partner. Doug, I owe so much to. Doug is one of the most amazing people in the world. We traveled Europe together every year. We've traveled the world together. I could give you so many Doug Padilla stories. When the KGB was chasing us in Moscow, when we got called up on a flight from Sydney to LA because Doug had run an extension cord from our 8-track player into the laboratory. And the pilot wanted to talk to us about it. I mean, we have so many stories. And he was with me when Paul James, we were competing in Karl Marxstadt against the East Germans. We had to go through Checkpoint Charlie. But I'm thinking about just one thing and then I'll shut up. But that is my favorite race of all time was 1979 Spartakiad in Russia. It's the only time they let Western athletes in the Russian national championship because they're getting ready for the 80 Olympics.
Yeah.
And
of which they were...
We boycotted.
We boycotted, yeah.
And at the time, I was on the chair of the Athletes Advisory Council on the U.S. Olympic Committee. I controlled 20% of the vote. I was flown to the White House. Sabrinsky was trying to persuade me to get the athletes to vote to... It's a whole nother story. But so in that race, I won the race. And afterwards, I went up in Lenin Stadium in the heart of Moscow in the midst of the Cold War, and they played our national anthem. And it still gives me chills.
Maybe for the first time.
Probably the only time.
Probably the only
We did
time.
go back for the Goodwill Games. I sat with Ted Turner in the stands, and I think that was '83. But so, I mean, you appreciate what we have, and it's so sad what's going on in this country right now, because people don't appreciate what we have. And you go behind the Iron Curtain, you appreciate. I had athletes try to defect. I had one guy, Margaret Garber in Koblenz. Every year he'd come up to me in the warm-up area, he's a steeplechaser. He had the Statue of Liberty in his hand and go to his heart. Every year he'd come to me and do that. And we had one guy, one of the discus throwers from Germany. He was a gold medalist. Wolfgang Schmidt, I think was his name. And he had showed too many Western tendencies with our athletes, and they put him on a potato farm to pick potatoes. The Russian athletes, when I was competing in the Spartakiad, we were under the Olympic Stadium. They would talk to me. As soon as we got in public, they couldn't be seen.
Nothing else.
Communicating with me. You just don't realize what we have in this country until you've experienced that.
Till you get outside of it. I was telling Dave, we were in Croatia just like last month, and people forget that Croatia was under communist rule until 1996. They won the Serb-Croatian War and became part of NATO. And I was really taken back at how pro-American and how grateful they were for their individual freedom. And they just really, really valued it and really were grateful for it, their opportunity to be free. And I agree with you. I think sometimes we take that for granted here.
Absolutely.
You know? We don't understand what it took, the prices that were paid to provide that. And you got that. You got to see that firsthand by being on the international scene and competing with athletes that didn't have those same freedoms.
Yeah.
Couple more questions for the great Henry Marsh, and then we're going to hit you up with 5 questions you're not prepared for. So
Okay.
that's
Yeah,
coming
all
up.
right.
But BYU is now in the Big 12, and the running program is Big 12 ready. The athletic department, which you followed since you participated in it and was a fan before as a kid growing up, but how excited are you for Big 12 competition across the board for BYU?
Oh, I'm so excited. I got to tell you something. My daughter was a cheerleader at BYU for 3 years, and I had 2 boys that played tennis at BYU. We've done endowed scholarships. We got 4 endowed family scholarships for BYU, 2 track, 1 tennis, 1 cheerleading.
Nice.
We're BYU family. And when my daughter was cheerleader, I would go to the games. She would travel. So I've been to Notre Dame, Mississippi,
Fun stuff.
TCU when David Nixon played.
Yeah.
I was at that game. Just name it, go down the list. And it was so much fun. So it was in independence and traveling like that is kind of how I anticipate. We've already got, we're taking 9 of us, my sons and grandsons, to the Kansas game, the first one.
Good.
We've already got our tickets.
It's going to be Jets
That could be a
flying
lot
over
of
there.
that could be a lot of points in that game.
So we've already got our tickets for that
Nice.
one. We're going to stay and go to the Kansas City game the next day.
Good.
Go see the Chiefs. And
Go see
Andy.
the Chiefs. I'm sorry about Sabbath day, but anyway.
Hey, sometimes the ox is in the mire. Or Andy's team's playing.
Yeah, so, but it's part of the family.
Yeah.
And I have good friends I have a very close friend who's a big Oklahoma State booster. So we've already started talking, and to have the Arizona schools back in Colorado and Utah.
Yeah, that's tradition.
There are a lot of people that are saying, "Oh, I hope they don't let Utah." I say, "No, let Utah in." That's what this is all about. Sports is about the competition. Yeah. It's not. Yeah, you want to win, but if you lose, it's not the end of the day. It's the competition, it's the excitement, it's the striving, and people lose sight of that, and that's what's sad. But the sporting event is. Amazing. I'll never forget Andrew George.
Dennis was talking about that play with Andrew in overtime.
Overtime, right? And the best part about it was the two Utah defenders hit each other. But I'm excited about the Big 12.
So how do you think they'll do? How do you think football?
Football is the big one that everybody's looking at. How do you think they're going to do this first year?
Something. Look at their Power 5 record. That's probably indicative.
Well, you talk about their Pac-12 championship 2 years ago?
Well, so, I wouldn't be surprised if they won, they went 4-5, in the Big 12 this year.
Big 12?
Yeah.
And so maybe a couple of wins early. You think you can get to 6-7 wins?
But they could, because the games will be close.
Yeah.
And it's if the ball bounces the right way. And I've seen it bounce the right way, I think, the Mississippi game, who was it that intercepted a pass or fumble?
Kyle Van Noy caused the fumble and then recovered it to win the game.
And then he did it against San Diego State. And, you have a play that makes it. It's like when we did the Hail Mary against Nebraska or Boise State, the Miracle Bowl.
Yeah.
You just, the games will be so close that they're going to be won or lost on a couple of plays, just like TCU last year.
Yeah.
And so you could easily be 7. You could easily get 7 wins this year.
Even 8.
Even 8. If the ball bounces the right way, or it could be 4 or 5,
Our over-under that we've set as a show is 7. We've said 7's a reasonable amount. And that doesn't mean they're not going to go win 6 or 5 or 8 or 9, but we feel like 7's a good spot. And if they win 7 this first year, that'd be good in this transition.
I agree.
Year. So that's our over-under that we've set is 7.
I agree.
So
yeah, 7's a very good year for them this year.
Yep.
Let's finish with this one before Blaine gets after you for 5 quick ones.
I'll give you the 5 quick ones.
As an expert, and you are an expert on this one, in what ways is running the steeplechase a metaphor for life?
That's a great question, and I love that question because I always looked at the barriers as opportunities. In life, we all have barriers, and there's the people who look at them as opportunities rather than challenges that succeed. And so the barriers gave me the advantage. And if you want to go in detail, I ran my flat 3,000 without any barriers was 20 seconds faster than my steeplechase time. Everybody else is 30 or 40 seconds. So I use the barriers as opportunity, as my advantage. And in life, it's that way. We're here in life to have troubles and challenges and strifes and fall down. But it's the people that look at that as, oh yeah, that's cool. That's why I'm here. Guess what? I just learned from that rather than, oh man, I'm horrible. And if it's like, next time something bad happens to you, it's like, yes, I get to learn another lesson because we lose the big picture. What's the big picture of life? The big picture of life is we came down here to experience. And you only know what you experience in life. My dad used to say, you're the sum total of your experiences.
Right.
And it's about the experience you have in life. And the more experience, I have a special needs son. If I didn't have that special needs son, I wouldn't have empathy like I do for special needs kids.
Right.
But I experienced it. And so the challenges we have, the more challenges, the more experience, the better off we are. And so the steeplechase, and we look at that as an opportunity, as an advantage, rather than a setback. Et cetera, et cetera.
Well said by Wrong Way Marsh.
Henry's got me, wrong way back in 6th grade.
Wrong Way Marsh.
Has been wrong way since 6th grade.
Wrong Way Marsh.
I've got a whole page of quotes from Henry Marsh right now that I'm loving. I'm loving it.
Let's get to the brass taxes here. Let's find out something about Henry Marsh.
These are 5 questions. You're not allowed to even think about them. You just answer what comes to your head.
Okay.
So your favorite sports movie?
It's easy. It's the one I'm in.
Oh, what's...
16 Days Glory.
Oh my gosh. That's awesome.
Bud Greenspan did all the Fish Olympic movies. After the 83 Worlds.
I forgot about that.
83 Worlds where I hit the last barrier. He came up to me after that race and he said, Henry, you're going to be part of the 84 Olympic film. He told me in 83 I was going to be part of it. He didn't know that in 84 Olympics I was going to collapse at the end of the race and be carried off on a stretcher and everything else. And then I went on tour with him. We were showing the movie because Peter Vidmar's in there, who's a very close friend. Opening ceremonies 84. We were next to Mary Lou, and she had
Mary Lou Retton.
Yeah. Well, anyway, so. So I went on tour with him, and he was always, you had to have the highs and the lows. Mine was the low, and the highs, to balance it out.
The contrast in the movie, right?
Exactly.
So 16 Days of Glory. Hey, everybody out there and out following, make sure you go see 16 Days of Glory.
But my favorite football films, and it was before this all happened this last week, but Blindside.
Oh, yeah, I like the Blindside.
Sandra Bullock was amazing.
And Tim McGraw. Sandra Bullock and Tim McGraw, right?
Yeah.
Brenda loves Tim McGraw. That's like... That's okay. She can love Tim.
My wife's like, Tim McGraw's not an actor. And I go, there he is right there.
He's right there.
Oh,
I love that story, that movie.
Yeah, Sandra Bullock is phenomenal.
Yeah, all that movie.
So 16 Days of Glory starring
Part 2.
Henry Marsh.
It's 16 Days. He did two
Part
movies.
2.
Yeah, Part 2.
Part 2.
I love it. Favorite singer or band?
It's the favorite singer or band.
By the way, we just posted 16 Days of Glory
nice.
on our YouTube site.
Thanks
Good job,
for that, Jack. Way to go, buddy.
Well, the one that I've seen the most in concert would be Elton John.
Oh, has anybody said Elton John yet?
No, I don't think so. I saw Elton John
He's
at the
great.
Marriott Center, the I'm Still Standing tour, back when concerts would come through.
Still
I've seen
standing.
him. I've seen him in L.A. Coliseum with what's his name? That did Layla.
Eric Clapton.
Eric Clapton. I saw with Eric Clapton. Then he was with.
Don't mess with me. I'm Music Man.
And then he was at the Delta Center with Billy Joel.
Wow.
And then I've seen him in Caesar's Palace.
Oh, yeah.
But he's amazing. So
Elton John is
I probably
awesome.
have to go with Elton.
That's a great one.
I
How
saw
about
a Caesar show too. That was fantastic.
Yeah.
The red piano, I think it was.
Oh yeah.
yeah.
Exactly. But all those guys, Journey and all the ones back in those days, Heart
Classics.
and yeah.
they're great. So, okay, your favorite breakfast cereal?
Well, my mom growing up gave us whole wheat mush.
Oh no.
No, excuse me, Indian mush.
Indian mush.
My mom was a nutrition expert.
But you didn't like it.
I did like it. It was like the kernels of wheat, not broken up, but the whole kernel, and it's called Indian mush. And
There are horror stories
what?
made of that.
That's how you become number one in the world.
But she'd make it with honey,
You eat Indian mush with honey.
and stuff. Oh, my mom, she was phenomenal. And her dad was in the first presidency, so
Yeah.
she's raised pretty well. But she would make this. We did a science experiment. My older brother, 6th grade in Dallas, and she took mice and she gave one group of mice just milk, another one just wheat, another one wheat and milk. And then my brother had to weigh them every day and then feed them and see how their health went. He won all of Dallas Science Fair with that.
Who won? Who gained the most weight?
Well, here's the thing: the one that was supposed to gain the most weight
Should have been milk and wheat.
was pregnant.
That skews the results.
That messed up.
So you're going with Indian mush?
Indian mush it, yeah.
We've had 64 podcasts and we've never had that one.
That makes Kyle Van Noy feeding his children protein smoothies for breakfast
Indian
not
mush.
sound that bad.
Yeah, we're going to talk about this one for shows.
Indian
Indian
mush. I'm
mush.
gonna have to
Indian
try
mush.
it.
All right.
Your favorite place to run in the world? Because you've run all over the world.
Well, Priest Trails in Eugene's the first thing because I went to law school, in Eugene.
Right.
And in the 80, I was in law school during the 80 Olympic trials. And I was the only American that broke an American record in the 80 Olympic trials and got the outstanding male performer of the 80 Olympic trials over Carl Lewis, all of them. And I was in law school that week. Anyway, I don't know why I thought that. But Priest Trails.
That makes you the fastest attorney known to man.
Yeah.
I don't know about that. Frank Shorter was an attorney. He was pretty good. Priest Trails, and then all the trails over in Europe. Sweden, outside the Olympic Stadium in Sweden, where we do warm-ups and these beautiful trails. But I love the sawdust, the wood bark trails in the forest.
You love running those. Are you still running?
I'm having knee surgery next month with a knee replacement. That's why I put on the weight. And when I turned 60, I ran a 5:13 mile.
Oh my goodness!
And then when I was 50, I ran a 5-minute mile. And And my surgeon's John Edwards, LaVelle Edwards' son.
Yeah.
Nice.
And so he says, Henry, you got grade 3. And he was on the track team with me.
Right. I remember John being on the
He
team.
said, you got grade 3 arthritis, no more running. The worst day of my life. He said at 50, he said, no more running.
Think how many miles are on
Hey,
those
do you want to know?
knees.
John gives a lot of people bad news because I almost tore my Achilles, and I went in to see John, and he looked at my Achilles, and they did an MRI and stuff. He goes, man, like you. He goes, you're very close to blowing this Achilles out. Like some of these strands are, he's like, so I need you to do something for me. Could you take out your license? I'm like, okay. I take out my license. He goes, what year is on your license? And I said, 1963. He goes, okay. Now I want you to take today's year, and I want you to subtract 1963 from that. And I go, okay. And he goes, if it's over 35, I need you to stop playing church basketball.
Oh,
I'm
church
like,
basketball.
oh. He's like,
church
you are going to
basketball.
blow your Achilles out playing church basketball, Blaine. You
basketball.
need to stop it.
Yeah.
I'm like, so I stopped playing basketball because John made me. He's making you stop running.
Aging's not fun. That's why I'm very
know what?
reflective these days.
Don't listen to him.
But they said, I told the doctor.
Get a new knee and you can run on
I said, that's what I asked him. He said 2 days a week.
Yeah. Just have to be a little lighter on it.
Spencer wants to know if you've ever hiked Spencer's Butte in Eugene.
Ooh, I have not hiked it, but I know of it.
Okay, all right. That one's
So
important.
he's saying his
we
dad was
ran
born
all
and
over
raised in
Eugene.
Eugene, and he loved
All
that
over
hike.
Eugene, yeah.
So here's the last of the big 5 questions.
And by the way, in law school, I did my 3rd year at BYU Law School, and with Rex Lee. Rex Lee and I became very close friends.
Yeah.
He's the one that got me into BYU my 3rd year. 1981, I was number 1 in the world that year, 81.
81.
And when he became Solicitor General, went back to the mall, and he is one of my all-time favorites.
That's great. Great man.
So your favorite BYU moment?
Man, you guys are so many memories. A favorite.
You got to pick out a favorite. You picked out you picked the
Favorite
best
BYU
athlete.
moment?
We asked you the best athlete in history, and like, bam, Danny Ainge. So now you got to come up with a favorite.
And I'm
moment.
still struck on Indian Mush, so
Indian
I'm
Mush.
eager to hear
Yeah.
this.
Okay. Mush
Okay,
blew
when you
me
say
away.
favorite
Favorite BYU moment. And you know what? It doesn't even have to be it can be any BYU moment you've ever had, and it doesn't even have to be in track and field.
I guess when I met my first wife.
That was the best moment. Was it in class?
No, her father lined us up.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was head of Bookcraft Books, and he showed me a picture of her. I said, "Well, why don't you line us up?" And we both lived in Riviera Apartments.
Riviera.
The Riviera,
Yeah,
the
Riv.
legend of the Riv.
The Riv.
Yeah,
So-
that's good. That's awesome. Thank you so much for being here and being able to spend so much time with us.
I loved it. You guys have the most fun of anybody.
Well, it's kind of cool because we're just on with a live stream, and fans from all over the world get a kind of, that's all they get, right? If you're in Columbia, you're not getting BYU stuff on the evening news.
Well, and we love that we had this brainstorm with Jack and who is our producer and partner and
DJ's over there.
DJ over there that we could do something different than was being done out there. And there was this new format with Livestream that we could repurpose as a podcast, and people go watch it all week long and go back like you did and watch the Danny Ainge interview, go all the way back and watch Marie Osmond come on with whatever it is. But you don't get to sit down and just visit with people for 45 minutes or an hour like we get to.
Yeah.
And really get into stories and get to know people. We've done TV our whole lives, and a 4-minute segment on a TV is a long piece. Right, so we do series of sound bites when we work in television. It's not quite as fulfilling as sitting down and being able to do this. We love it, and we're having a lot of fun with it.
Well, I feel very selfish being able to talk about myself and things that I've done.
Well, that's why you're
That's
here to
what
talk
you're
about
here.
yourself.
That's why
But
we've got you here.
And it's been so long, but I admire you guys. It's so much fun watching. I watch Sports Nation every day.
Good.
I'm usually working out.
Yeah.
Did you watch it today? Because I was on today.
I haven't watched today's yet.
Today's a
is-
good show.
I have it recorded.
I previewed the offense for this fall.
I was watching the World Championships.
Yeah, Nixon. Oh, that's okay.
understatement.
The World Championships came on at 10:30.
Nixon and I were on today. I previewed the offense. Nixon
Kalani was
previewed the
on.
offense.
I did watch after further review though.
Oh, good.
Nice.
Yes, that was a fun show today.
I've
too.
watched that one.
Yeah.
So,
But I'll watch Sports Nation
Look, you're
tomorrow. probably.
on the Mount Rushmore of BYU track and field.
absolutely.
Well, thank you. That's very kind of you.
And we love how you represent the Y, and and you've been friends with our dad, so now you're friends
That's
with
true.
us.
And his parents are awesome. They would host people at the Marriage Center.
They just love being able to interact with everybody.
But they're great people. They're great people. And your dad, I didn't know your dad as well as I got to know his parents.
Right.
But I knew your dad back there. And,
well, both of our folks are part of the fabric of BYU over the years, which we're really proud of. We're really proud of.
BYU's family.
Yeah.
And I got my oldest granddaughter going to BYU now.
Oh my God.
You're too young to have a granddaughter.
She's going to
That's
BYU
amazing.
and she's amazing.
That's great.
The great Henry Marsh on the Wise Guys. Now you can go to the Wise Guys and watch the Henry Marsh interview.
It'll be in there.
We need to get this show more publicized. I didn't even know about it.
It's
It's growing like crazy.
How do you publicize it?
And we're
working
one of
on
the
it.
things we wanted to do was we wanted to put a year in the books and figure out what we're doing. And now we got a great format. We know what we're doing.
Ahead of the Big 12.
We're just now we're just going into the Big 12, and we're ready to really promote the heck out of it and really have it grow.
Yeah.
It's actually grown at a phenomenal rate compared to other podcasts, but we're ready to put our foot on the gas pedal. And really
you guys
go
do a
with this
great
thing.
job. I admire what you
So,
do. So thank you for letting me be part of it.
Thank you so much,
Yeah.
Henry.
And have a safe drive back.
So, and look, 35 years, will you let me come back?
Absolutely.
Of course, we'll verify some of those stories. It might take us a while.
So